Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I have everything set up correctly right off the bat, which is amazing. We are basically going to be doing a Jonkoping preview show for the most part. But then we will be touching on some of the interesting developments in the esports world, which, if you've missed out on them, are actually quite interesting, quite impactful, such as the League of Legends walkout. One of the, I think, only times I've heard of a union actually kind of working. But yeah, we'll get to that. But first, it's basically all StarCraft. So we're going to be talking about the upcoming big StarCraft 2 tournaments, which I think is officially called ESL Masters Summer, at DreamHack Jonkoping, if I remember correctly. But anyways, yeah, we're going to be talking about that. And I guess the first thing that we're going to talk about is who actually made it. So in case anyone didn't watch the regionals, which is probably a decent amount of people, because as we discussed in our last show, viewership wasn't actually that great for it. So we can get into the Liquipedia and talk about who made it and then who actually is going, because that also was a big point of conversation on Reddit. MaxPax once again forfeiting his spots. So very exciting stuff. Let's get the Liquipedia up and go over to the I call it monitor. I should probably call it something else. But here we go. So these are the people from the regionals that are actually going to participate. We have two Protosses. Estrella and Classic, Bunny, Bjorn, Clem, Coffee, Kier, Gumiho, Maru, Oliveira, Spirit, Dark, Rainer, Scarlet, Serral, and Solar. And you can see here that MaxPax is a little asterisk thingy because he forfeited. And Rainer was won the spots in the replacement brackets. So he is going, but it's been interesting because, well, let's discuss, I guess, the first thing, which is that what do you think about the the race distribution here? How happy are we about the lack of Protoss right now?
I mean, Terran's just really good. They are just better players, ZombieGrub.
I think so.
It's not an imbalanced issue. It is just Terran players are better at the video game, and that means that they are being rewarded. Simple as. Very easy.
Yeah. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. Of course, the open signups are available, guys. We probably will have more Protoss coming in from the European side. I don't know if we actually have a list of people who signed up, to be honest.
No, I don't know that it's available yet, and if it is, it's on ESL Play.
Yeah, don't we usually have it at this point?
I mean, I love that ESL Play is not even, we're going to have to do some spelunking here. ESL Play isn't even linked on the site yet.
We may be getting the list of signups sooner, but I know just in the past that most of the time when I travel to Europe for an event, I get the groups and like what the actual players are and who they're playing the day that I fly out, which would be Tuesday. So.
Okay. I vaguely recall actually doing some research on the open signups previous to flying out, but perhaps that was many moons ago.
We fly out a day later usually.
Well, there's also that, I guess.
But you're talking about the racial distribution, and I think the thing we have to point out is that, not a lot of Protoss, and certainly a lot of Terrans, but a lot of that is due to sub-regional dominance, right? Like, who was going to beat Oliveira in Asia? Okay, Coffee's decent. He's going to get the other at-large spot because of how EPT points are distributed. So the thing we got to be looking at really is, okay, MaxPax drops out, fine. But we just look at this Korean region, and what has Korea always been known for? They've been known for these Korean Terrans, and with the fact that Terrans are good against Protoss right now, and the maps are good.
Yeah.
Like, you look at any individual region, and it's not that weird, outside of maybe Hero not being here. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, no, I think missing Hero. There are definitely a few explanations for it. Like specifically, even in Europe, very unfortunate the way it worked out with the bracket because MaxPax knocked out Showtime and Skillus, and that kind of messed things up a little bit. Obviously, MaxPax would be an extremely strong player. I think the only other player that would have had even a remote chance of making top 4 in Europe, and that would have been a miracle run if he would have been maybe Hearthstone, but he would have had to beat Serral, and let's be real, that would have been a pretty huge upset if that were to happen. But I do really think that Showtime could have made it in. His current form looks super strong. But then, yeah, you go over to the Asia regionals. And the only thing I'll say is that I was expecting to see Firefly in the finals, because Firefly right now, he is flying high. He is a really, really damn good player right now. So for him to get knocked down by Coffee was a little bit unlikely. But even then, even if he doesn't, he's playing the world champion for the one qualifying spot. Now, if there's 2 qualifying spots, I mean, maybe things are a little different. And then Korea's its own bag of worms.
Yeah.
Can of worms?
Actually, just really quickly on the whole topic of like the Asia thing, I think also in the past, before we did the region merging, normally we'd have Neeb, who is now retired and stuff for Protoss. We would oftentimes either have Nice or Haas or something coming in as alongside like Oliveira and stuff, because Taiwan would just get a spot, but now it's all merged in. And then you guys already talked about like some of the Korean Protoss players. So like, I think part of this is actually just the effect of the regions merging down, and some of the players that we would see that were racially diverse and stuff were not necessarily the players that you'd look at and be like, yeah, well, this is a top competitor. And it's like, well, actually, just a lot of them were, yeah, from North America or like from Asia or something like that.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. It's also kind of a good kind of segue, kind of not, but just continuing to deep dive into the ESL format. feardragon did complain about the format changes.
No. ZombieGrub. Lambo complained about it. All right.
Well, I was going to say in a previous episode, Lambo hasn't been here. But Lambo did make a video. If you guys didn't check that out, it's more than just, whoops, that's the wrong button. It's more than just like my video. I did an explanation for Atlanta, because no one understands the knockout bracket. But that was really just to explain like how it worked. Lambo explained how the new format works, but then also dug into basically how unfair it is. So that was another point of conversation from the community, which is that basically what feardragon was complaining about 3 or 4 episodes ago, the people who are in the first tournament are probably going to be like the same people indefinitely. There's very little room for like not even upsets. There's basically very little room for upward mobility, I guess is how you would say it. Like the ladder doesn't seem like it's there. You either get in right off the bat or you don't. And you're just playing kind of like the B side of StarCraft for a long time. Or obviously in previous years, especially when there was a lot of tournaments, 4 DreamHacks instead of 2 or 3, there's always that chance that you could have a really good run later on. And not just, getting the top seed by placing first like Raynor did back in the day, but actually maybe doing poorly at Leipzig, but then doing well Valencia and Montreal, then you could maybe still make it to BlizzCon or something like that. Apparently it's just not even possible now. Like if you are not a part of this tournament, you're kind of screwed. So yeah, any more thoughts on that I didn't cover? Do you guys agree? I know feardragon basically agrees.
So one extra thing I'll say, which is the thing that I think even Lambo is not, I think, talked about in his video and stuff, is like we haven't even seen the full effect of it, because what you're gonna also see is that we have fewer open bracket spots in general. Yeah. So at the actual live event, they prioritize players based on the EPT point standings. In the past, this wasn't an issue in the European events because we didn't even fill up all the spots. In North American events, this would sometimes cause issues where even some like pretty decent players wouldn't get in. We have half the number of open sign-up spots. Now you're basically going to see a situation where the players that are able to get in because they did well enough in the regionals or whatever just to get into this first event are now going to be getting more EPT points. So when it comes to winter in Atlanta and like way at the end of the year, those are going to be the players that just have more EPT points because they were allowed to participate in this event. So it's going to be very, very difficult, if not like feeling a little bit close to impossible for a lot of those other players who didn't make it or don't make it into the open bracket for this event to even play at Atlanta, I think, if the open signups go as I expect.
And you talk about that, like Europe, okay, didn't have enough signups last year. There were already, 68 signups on Jonkoping. And granted, this is everyone that was invited and was not invited, so all that. But we're looking at 48 players, right? We'll play in ESL Masters Summer at Jonkoping. 16, obviously direct invite. They're in a really good spot. Another 32 who, good luck. But we already have more than that signed up for this event already. And this is Europe. This is the one that doesn't have that massive sign-up sheet. So yeah, it's rough. I do think we're gonna see some of the players get. I mean, Heroes signed up for the open quals, the open bracket. I think he probably gets through. You never know. But I mean, I look at it right now. It's like Spirit Showtime. Okay, well that's probably half the sign-up bracket right there. There's no room. You're right. There's absolutely no room.
Well, and the other thing that's going to be funky too is like, because it's so few spots through the open, like if you just get one bad, like even if you're seeded well, but someone qualifies in a position at a lower seed, you might just get fucked completely on the dumbest bracket luck. Like you could literally end up playing hero and end up playing the tournament champion in like the third round of the open bracket. Like it's
and even if you
really
do go,
bad,
and even if you do go right and you make that run and it's great and you're 1 of 4, say Cyril loses to Dark in the upper bracket semis or whatever it is, like how that seeding happens, and suddenly he's knockout round 2. Hero Cyril knockout round 2. Anyone want that? I don't.
Yeah.
Like I want them in the playoffs. I want them to go deep. I want the high leverage. I want the best of 5s. But because there's so many players kept out in the dark, it means that we will get those high leverage games. Knockout round 2, knockout round 1, whatever it is. It's just honestly some bracket luck that wouldn't be. Dark might play Cyril upper bracket semifinals of bracket 2. I mean, does anyone trust Cyril's ZVZ right now against Koreans?
Well, yeah. I guess I still kind of trust it, but you're making an excellent point, and it's like right here, one of the first matches is Mar versus Rainer.
Yeah.
So that was kind of spun positively by Alex on Twitter, which I don't blame him for spinning it positively. But it's like, we don't have as many of the frankly not great best of 3s that we used to have on Fridays in the open bracket. But it's not exactly super great either to have potential where Rainer gets knocked down and then beats out a potential hopeful from the signups, and then you don't even see them because it just happens so quickly, right?
I think I will defend that a little bit and say for the seeded players, that's what the main event, like knockout bracket, basically. I think that's where that shines a little bit more, where it's like, hey, you can just kind of lose in like that seeding stage and drop out kind of quickly, and you still just go to the knockout bracket. Like you just have to play like you play earlier. I actually, in my opinion, I know a lot of people are complaining about that. That's actually the thing that I didn't mind the most, I would say.
Well, I guess maybe it isn't that. Wait, okay. So what is the format for? I'll promise I'll study.
It's super weird.
So if you're
actually
super weird.
I can explain it really quickly for ZombieGrub, and then ZombieGrub, I'm guessing, will probably be able to explain it. All right.
Okay.
ZombieGrub, it's like old MLG groups that's seed into the MLG championship bracket. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. So, but it is groups.
No, it's not. It's still
sorry.
a bracket.
Instead of group placement and stuff, they're just doing the a bracket.
Yeah.
And then the bracket, depending on where you get eliminated, puts you into the knockout bracket.
But there is a upper and lower bracket on that as well.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay. That makes. Yeah. Okay. Well, my original point was that imagine Rainer gets knocked to the knockout bracket right off the bat, right? He loses to Maru. Then he goes to the lower bracket, actually, apparently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so he actually does have 2 lives.
Right. That's where the confusion was from me, which was that, does he literally have 2 lives overall? Well, he kind of has 3, right? So lower bracket and then knockout. Okay.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, this is almost vaguely like the Gamers Without Borders tournament.
Sure.
Gamers 8?
Yeah,
Gamers Without Borders.
Because, Gamers 8. Yeah. So the only reason I say that is because like you only for the players that are in the top 16, in my opinion, because you have an opportunity right out of the gate to make it straight to the playoffs. And then if you don't, then you have an opportunity to like get a good placement in the knockout bracket. But you can only it's like not exactly the same, but it's weird in that there's like it feels like you have more lives than normal. It's just a really weird setup in general. But the big thing is that if you lose a match in that top 16 bracket, the players that qualified in, you can no longer make a direct run to the playoffs. So,
Right.
And playoffs is super weird because it's normally we're used to like the knockout bracket going into this kind of like long form playoff bracket. Like we consider the playoffs to start at like round of 24, but now the playoffs are like round of 8.
Although, in fairness, Steadfast, does it really matter if we say, okay, well, it's the playoffs are round of 8? Functionally, by the time you're, in my mind, in part knockout or playoffs are, you only have one life. You're playing extended series. Knockout round, like once you start to get the knockout rounds, and certainly like 3 and 4, I think we can just consider that playoffs, even if we're saying, well, functionally. Well, actually, never mind. I can't make that argument because playoffs are best of 5s and knockouts are not.
Yeah, exactly.
I was trying.
That's the
okay,
thing.
like
yeah, I think round of 24 on was best of 5 at DreamHack Atlanta. Is that? Hang on, let me quickly bring that up. That's because it started pretty early. It started pretty early for best of 5s, and that's it. That's the big difference. Is like you could just like it's so bloody easy to lose a best of 3 against a player that you're even with. But a best of 5 is like a completely different beast. Obviously, it's not a best of 7, but some of the maps that players don't play as much, you can start doing some strategies that are a little bit more out there, like in order to try and steal a map. Like it's just totally massively different. And so at least round of 24 was best of 5 for DreamHack Atlanta.
It was 20. It was round of 24 when it started.
Yeah.
What is the number of players for? Because apparently knockout brackets only round 1 match is best of 3.
Wait. So you're saying knockout round 2 is best of 5?
Okay, so on Wikipedia it says round 1 matches are best of 3, all matches are best of 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so then
that's a little better. That's a lot of best. we go from like far fewer best of 5s to a lot of best of 5s.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I actually, when you guys were talking about the best of 3s, I started going over like, well, how quick are the broadcasts going to be? And I know one thing they don't want to do is make quick broadcasts.
I was going to say that would lead to like, because what do we know what the schedule is? I don't even know if it could be released.
I don't know if it's released, but I did get a peek at the schedule.
Because like as it stands right now, my guess. Oh, actually, no. Never mind. It's on Wikipedia.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. So playoffs is all day Sunday, and that's the only thing that's on Sunday.
Ooh,
so there's 6 best of 5s and a best of 7.
So there are 18 total best of 5s in DreamHack.
Is that right?
Yeah, I counted.
Yeah. You're right. 12 plus 6. Yeah.
And then if we look at the round of 24 from last year, 16, 20. There were actually more best of 5s in this than there were. No, wait.
No, that's not right. That's
16, 20. Yeah, there were 22 last year. What I say there were 18. So less best of 5s this in this setup.
Comparable though, but I mean, once you get to knockout round 2, anyways, that's still going to be like a creme de la creme, like that's going to be the cream of the crop.
Yeah, I do want to say, going back to what you were originally talking about with this though, Dave, is like this is a format where you do have more lives and like more opportunities earlier on, including now with best of 5s for like knockout bracket and everything. And I think one of Lambo's big points as well is that this, like, qualifying through the regionals isn't like a little boost. It's like a guarantee of being a very high placing finisher where you already just straight go to the knockout bracket, which, correct me if I'm wrong, like, are you already just like what, top like 16 or top 20 or something like that.
I think it's top 20 or top 24.
Which means you're already getting 120 EPT points or so, like for top 20, $1,200. And I want to mention the EPT points because some of the players are basically probably going to be able to play in this event because they have about 100 EPT points. Like, to give you an idea of some of like the players that have 100 EPT points, like Mana has like 130 EPT points. Like, you have players like that are quite good that I think are basically sitting at around that number of points. So this is already like a guaranteed boost for a lot of people just for having done well in the regionals, which then carries back over into next season of EPT. And the seeding also, as we've seen with Maru versus Raynor having being like a first round thing and everything, like seeding matters a lot for this. It matters a lot in the regionals as well. Like all of this stuff really, really does start to kind of like snowball a little bit.
That's a good. It feels like it snowballs really hard. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yes.
And go ahead, Zuchi.
No, you go ahead.
I guess it also kind of brings back this whole argument that we've had for years now of like how much do you want to reward minor regions, especially now when we talk about the snowballing when you do get EPT points for winning a region, where it's like or doing well in a region. It's like, okay, well, you know, with so few slots, does the fact that we have, I mean, granted, we brought these regions together. No longer is it Oceania and Taiwan, Hong Kong, and whatever. It is still just, it's Asia. But this guarantees, you know, Oliveira is going to have a high seeding in the World Championship just because his region, no one can touch him. And yeah, you know, he's reigning world champion, and that's fair. But from that perspective, when Europe is so much more competitive, like, do we need to reopen that can of worms again?
I guess not.
Like,
I'm sorry, I missed the point. I was counting it up. It is top 20.
He's saying Oliveira is trash and Europe is trash. So Oliveira shouldn't have a spot there, which I think is an interesting point. I say that facetiously, and that's obviously not exactly
interesting. Oliveira is trash. But, like, he agrees with me. Great.
It's an interesting point because I think typically you could say that, but like I'm gonna be totally blunt about it. I look at the list of players who did make it through the regionals and stuff. The only player that I feel like is slightly out of place is Coffee. Like everyone else, actually, I'm like, yeah, if they were in like an 84 player tournament or something bracket, and then that was your like top 16. Outside of Coffee, I don't think I would actually bat that much of an eye.
Controversial point, Scarlet. She has not been performing for the last year or so.
Scarlet, I think I would like half agree in the sense that I think Scarlet like has like big ups and big downs in terms of like her performance, but I feel like Scarlet still will occasionally make like playoff runs at individual tournaments and stuff. So I feel like that I would maybe say, oh yeah, like this is great. Scarlet's doing one of her like patented runs and stuff, but it wouldn't be one of those, wow, Scarlet is super out of place in this lineup.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that she beat Kelazur on her way to do it too, and pretty convincingly, like convincingly enough to definitely earn the spot. Like both Kelazur and Special got knocked out on what would be effectively the qualifying match into ESL Masters Summer, and they're the two players that we looked at as the two big names in the region. Now the one thing I'll say is, because it really kind of sucks, and I wonder maybe if the answer now is to make regionals, because at this point I know that they want us to call them a main tournament. We have to consider them qualifiers. They're so fucking important.
Yeah,
they're so goddamn important.
I mean,
so I think you have to make them double elimination, because yes. Look at Trigger. Trigger was the closest player to beating Estrella. He was the only player that took it to the ace match against Estrella, and he got knocked out in the round of 8. He just, and it's not like Estrella. It's not like Trigger played bad. He went 3-0 in the regular setup. He was one map away from maybe being the other North American player to qualify. And I mean, the other opponent was Special, who he already beat. And in my opinion, I think of Trigger as favored against Special. Like, I think this was like Trigger is a player who got screwed over a little bit,
Yeah, and I think so. One of the goals of the regionals, and by the way, saying that we can't call them main tournaments because they're a qualifier. I mean, does that make ESL Masters Jonkoping a qualifier because it seeds into Katowice? Like, you can still. The argument is you can still be a main tournament while qualifying yourself into something else. That being said, one of the stated goals of the new format this year was to reduce the number of games because there were just too many, while still having good broadcast length. But I agree with you. I think they went a little too far. Yeah, Swiss massively. I don't forget what the number was, but massively decreased the amount of games. But when you go to playoffs, we used to have double elim. Like we used to have double elim in the regional setup, and it made sense because yeah, what if you run into the champion in round one? Okay, well now you're not going to. Yeah, you're right. You're not going to. Now you're not going to go to the LAN, even if you were the second best player in the region.
And the worst part of that is that Trigger actually went 3-0 as opposed to Estrella, who went 3-2.
Yeah.
If,
Punished
if
for doing
you
well
just,
in groups.
Pardon?
Punished for doing well in groups, yeah.
Exactly. And that's like such a silly thing. Like if he had gone 3-1 and ended up in Future's position, I'm not saying he's going to make it out, but I know that in the past he has actually beaten Scarlet in high leverage best of fives. Against Kelazur, I'm not giving him necessarily the best odds, but I'm not going to say he doesn't have a chance either. Like it really sucks that, and I know this is a big tournament. It is a main tournament, but like this is a tournament that is an online tournament that travels to a bigger tournament. Like, even though, yes, it's its own tournament for sure, I still think, in my mind, this is still a qualifier more so than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong about double elim. I absolutely agree. I think in something of this magnitude, double elim just makes a lot of sense, especially when we have time over weeks to make this happen. But it's not just a qualifier, right? It can still be its own tournament. So I'm agreeing with you here. And
yeah. No, I hear you. I think the importance, and especially with everything that has been said already about like the snowbally nature of these, like it's not such a big deal if you don't, like it's a really big deal if you don't come top 16 at ESL Masters Summer Jonkoping. But it's not such a big deal if you don't do particularly well at the regionals, other than the fact that you didn't get that free ride into the top 20. Yeah. And it's dumb to call it a free ride because obviously you qualified for it. But what I mean is like, once you're there, you're there.
Mm-hmm. Well, go ahead. Any other points?
This is like kind of a tangential thing, but like I'm also just really curious what's going on in the mind of someone that's like a solid player that would normally attend one of these events and stuff, and they're looking at this open sign up list and saying, so when do I book my flight? Because I know that a lot of people are going to get cut off from signing up for the open bracket. I have to book a flight and a hotel and everything. I still don't know if I'm allowed to play, and I'm close to the cutoff. Like, what? I would love to just like know what some of these players who are in that spot are thinking, because I'm also looking at this list of signups and I'm like, yeah, I could see that a lot of them are maybe just not even going to bother. Like, it's not even worth the risk, because are you really going to purchase like a flight and hotel and all this stuff if you're not even sure you're going to be able to play until maybe like 3-4 days before the event?
It's also a weird one.
Yeah, that makes it really tough.
Especially like it's DreamHack. It's not like it's, I don't know, Red Bull Battlegrounds back in 2014 or something, where the event is StarCraft, right? And that is going to bring in however many people, but it's the only thing there, and it's not massively impacting every single hotel in the vicinity. No, it's DreamHack. So, I mean, I don't even want to think about how expensive hotels are going to get. Like, it feels like maybe Jonkoping's cheap. I don't know, but
it's very much not a popular destination. It's pretty cheap.
Fair. Yeah, but also that would mean there wouldn't be a ton of hotels. So when
you're right,
the DreamHack comes in, I don't know.
It balances out.
It has a convention center, obviously, but it's one of the least. It's actually something I had to learn about. There is like really no airport that's close to it. All the airports are 4 hours away by train.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's like
they love y'all, don't they?
One of the things I noticed looking at the open sign-up list is like, okay, from the Asia region, there are players who I actually think have a fair number of EPT points and stuff. And I'm like, well, What about like Firefly? Because that was mentioned. Like, oh, is Firefly there? No, I didn't see him on. Sorry, I did see Firefly on the open sign-up list, but I'm like, oh, what about Cyan? What about Haas? What about Jaishi? What about Nice? What about XY? It's like, I don't know if it actually is a good idea for them to sign up and go if they're not sure if they're going to play. It's going to be very expensive for them. I imagine similar kind of vibe for North America. I know usually a lot of the North Americans don't travel out, but last year was a great example where a lot of NA players actually went, they flew out, they got an Airbnb, a bunch of them competed, a bunch of them actually got pretty sick results as well. And yeah, it's just, it doesn't make sense right now to do.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
But then again, like, you know, there is kind of the underlying elephant in the room, which is that they very much on purpose are consolidating. So
yeah,
there's only so much like actual complaining we can do. I think going into the format and elaborating on why it's difficult and all that is still important. But at the end of the day, in terms of actually being helpful and suggesting alternatives, I don't know if we could. Right.
I have one actually
Okay.
like I think that's an entirely fair point because I do think a lot of the complaints do seem like it's just, you know, bitching to like no one about like problems that we're not solving. My biggest issue and the reason why I was bringing this up is like it sucks that we don't know the player list further in advance. Like,
sure.
I don't know if this is an issue where players just apply to like for the open bracket really, really late, which has also been a problem in the past and stuff. But if I would love it if they did at least give like 2 weeks notice for like announcing the player list, right? Wouldn't that be helpful?
Closes, by the way.
Huh?
Do you know when sign up closes?
When?
I saw that. Yeah,
2 days before the event starts.
Signs up on closes on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I just noticed that too. Also, it is so they do have different designations. So there's signed up and then there's sign up pending. So I assume anyone who signed up is like has their spot locked.
No, because I'm looking at this. Spirit is like close to the top of the European standings, and he's signed up pending. For example.
Didn't he? No, he qualified directly, right? Yeah, no, he's qualified into the top 16 pending. I think that's just that's not what that is.
Yeah, he's not on the list I'm looking at.
There's a page 2.
Nope, not for this one.
On the ESL website?
On ESL Play, Spirit is...
Oh, yeah, there is. What am I saying? You're right. Yeah. Had a moment.
Although I don't... There it is, okay. So I don't know what that is, but it's not... These players are playing, these players are not. I imagine there's some procedural stuff.
Did
sort of is signed up.
I mean, why not, right?
Well, sort of played in the...
He's back in Sweden?
No.
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good point.
Because if he's back in Sweden, it makes a ton of sense for him to sign up. But if he's still staying in Korea, that makes like no sense for him.
You're right, 100%. Yeah. He might have just signed up because, you know, what if, or maybe he is going back for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, but yeah, he's pretty attached to Korea. No doubt about that.
It could have paired up like visiting family or something with that. That would make sense.
Yeah.
And then if it works, it works.
Exactly.
Good luck getting in with 0 EPT points.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
It's probably not going to work out. But he also, to be honest, and I don't mean to BM him or anything, but he might not be like at all paying attention to the scene and just did a casual sign up of DreamHack, right? Just like you would in many previous years. Not realizing
friends and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not realizing just how few slots there are and how hard it's going to be. So that wouldn't surprise me.
I guess, aside. Oh, sorry, good. You got Steadfast.
Well, I now realize that so the reason that I was like, oh, there's no second page is because I've gotten a little bit used to navigating the ESL play pages. So it says at the top 32 players signed up. So at this current point, they actually do have, if this is correct and everything is as it's supposed to be, or not even as it's supposed to be, as they're stating, then the players that are said as signed up are the only ones that are there.
No, that's not accurate because they have a round of 16 players.
No, but those are all sign up pending.
I actually counted all of the players. So first of all, not all the round of 16 players are even actually on this ESL webpage.
Oh, they don't need to be.
Some of them are missing. Yeah, which they don't need to be. That's fine. But then I actually counted all the players that are not invited, and we have 38 players that are not invited that are signed up on this. So already 6 of the players that are currently on this page are not going to play.
Mm.
And they're listed as signed up. Like that's the designation.
They're listed as either signed up pending or signed up.
Right.
Oh no, I'm only looking at the ones that are signed up.
Actually, no, Steadfast. I think you might be right here. I'm looking at it, and all of the player. Well, here Marine qualified directly, right? Or did
No, he did not.
No.
No, he did not. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the 32.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure the players that are signed up are the 32. Which, if that's the case, if that is like now they could adjust it, but if they are doing that at this point, then that's really fucked up. Because if you look at the website, let's say Fiant, he looks at the website and he's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna book a train ticket, and it says he's signed up, and then they're like, well, actually, Firefly signed up now, and he has priority over you, so we're kicking you out.
Yeah, and if you look at it, it's like if you select by signed up contestants, you're right, it's exactly 32 players.
Okay. While I know that this is also a very riveting talk show conversation to describe a website and how it's interacting, I do want to say there are people like Molten SC who all love to Molten and everything, has a total whopping 0 EPT points and stuff, says signed up. And there are players who are, I'm trying to remember where I found some of them, like that say sign up pending, like Spirit, who are literally at the top of the EPT point standings and should be
no, but Spirit qualified.
Spirit qualified. Yeah,
he wouldn't be.
Okay.
He would be sign up pending just because. So they probably signed up like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then just didn't unsign up. Now the big problem is that there are players who didn't actually qualify. Was Ryung not top 6 in GSL? No, he wasn't, right?
No.
Correct.
No.
He's like the big example of someone who is signed up pending, who I assume has EPT points and is still on that pending side. When you have Molten, all respect to him, who is technically, if we're reading this right, who is confirmed.
I guess we don't really know. So it's a bit of a moot point, but I think generally, kind of to summarize what's going on here, open signups are limited and are also very messy because they are confirmed so late. So people who very much could have an open bracket run are like kind of question marking whether they could go or not. Generally, it's a very difficult bracket and tournament for people who did not make it into via the regionals, qualifying via the regionals. And the knockout bracket is great, but still the open signups are like really harsh because you could go through the open bracket and just find yourself in the knockout bracket up against, again, like Raynor, who might get defeated by Maru and then defeated by Cyril. I don't know, something like that. So anyways, it's just, but it is all in point to consolidate, and we have to admit that, it's the top people in StarCraft are going to be the top people in StarCraft. There is no more money to actually make room for a ladder system, but it's, we're acknowledging that's going to be the case from here on out. It just kind of sucks that it sounds like there really wouldn't be even a lot of flexibility when it comes to those top 20 plus players, whatever it is. Like, it's not even just that, like, oh, you have 36 players, 32 players. Okay, but that's all that StarCraft 2 can sustain. It's like, well, it might be the same order of top 32 players as well. So that's not exactly super fun. But that's, I kind of move on from the format more so, right? And we touched on it multiple times, to kind of segue, but the way that they are qualifiers, I think, was when I meant to segue over to the MaxPax thing, but you guys had more stuff to discuss. So going back to that, we are told, to say that it's a qualifier, right?
Oh, no, we're told it's not to.
We're told to say
it's
its own tournament.
Yeah, it's its own tournament.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So people are, of course, angry about MaxPax dropping out because, one, everyone gets hyped that he might actually play. 2, he's the only Protoss that is doing spectacular. And 3, he messes with the signups, basically. He messes with the player lists. So one of the things that Lambo brought up too, and he was very gracious about it, was that he probably should have been the one to go to Jonkoping instead of MaxPax. And instead, they made a bracket, basically like a replacement bracket that they've done previously. And Raynor won that. So you actually have Raynor at a surprisingly low seed, getting a very top placement because he won this additional tournament that they made that people definitely have some takes on, whether it was fair or not. But in general, I did want to talk about MaxPax and whether or not you guys agreed with him actually basically screwing people over. All right. So when we think about MaxPax not going to the end-all be-all tournament, because that's effectively what it is, all right? Even if it's not a qualifier, like this whole thing is supposed to lead up to the main tournament. When it's him in his own bubble and he doesn't affect anyone else, no one should care, I would say, right? I mean, it's sad you can't cheer for the guy, but like no one should actually care. But with what happened in this tournament, with Raynor getting in instead of probably Lambo should have done it, is this actually a problem? And I know one common answer is no, it's not a problem because the regionals are said to be their own tournament. It's not a qualifier to DreamHack, but you can call it whatever you want. These are the expectations set. Like at the end of the day, his removal of himself from the overall, I don't know, machinery, right? Like the process, him removing himself from the process did kind of potentially screw someone over. So the new topic is MaxPax. Is he an asshole or not?
So I want to go.
I gotta break that down a little bit because Lambo is not the one who got screwed over by MaxPax directly. If anything, Lambo got and all the players in the replacement bracket got an extra life from that. The ones that got screwed over are Showtime and Skilless. Those are the two that got
people that he
over.
beat.
The people that he beat.
Right.
Lambo did not get screwed over by MaxPax at all. Lambo got screwed over by ESL. By ESL not adhering
Following
to the rules that they put in the.
That's a good point.
So Lambo, if anything, he should be thanking MaxPax for giving him the chance at all. And like his gripes, I think, would be with ESL. No, he's not an asshole. Not at all. That's some clickbait shit for sure. Does it suck? Yeah, it fucking sucks.
Okay.
Should he maybe not play? That's neither here nor there. I think it's once again up to ESL to be like, okay, if you make it into this tournament, you're like agreeing to go. And once again, I don't think it's on the players to you can't be upset that what he's done, he's been allowed to do.
Well, hate the game, not the player.
Yeah,
but,
in this case, hate
literally.
the rulebook, not the player.
Yeah, there you go.
Or like
it's not even hate the rulebook. They're not following the rulebook. Like
that's the other thing. Yeah,
I think that's the there's this. We saw the discourse like, should MaxPax be banned or no, he shouldn't. But sure, like the discourse lacking here is that ESL is not following their own rules, and that is a problem.
Yeah, and does anyone have any more information on that? Is that just actually the truth of it?
So Slowly Falling had sent me a link to a screenshot of Lambo talking in a Twitch chat. And I don't know where that link is now. It's somewhere in like chat log history or something. But from what I recall, it said something along the lines of Lambo stating that they were told before the event that would be how things would be handled if MaxPax did manage to qualify and had to decide, like, because he was going to drop out and it was known. So like, there's a tiny bit. I actually am still not on board with it, but there's a tiny bit more justification to say that they didn't at least like alter the rule book or just decide to abandon the rule book after the situation arose. They did it before and informed the players. So supposedly, like, that makes it a little bit better, but in my mind, it's still not okay because I'll let Beomulf finish his thought first.
It's like, yeah, you should go and actually. Yeah, so I'm looking at the rulebook right now. Okay, there are two replacement sections in there. One is if you're in the regional, and that's if you're in the main season. If you need a replacement, the next in line from the closed qualifier, in this case, the next in line, gets the spot. If it's from closed qualifier, from the open bracket qualifier, whatever. And then going to the finals, which is more relevant here. because this is again moving into that tournament, not because there's not going to be replacement mid-tournament setup. If you're a Korea, and here is the I'll just drop the screenshot, if that is useful. Next in line is from the most recent season. Ties broken by current Korean EPT standings, but global again. This is the one we care about the most. Next in line in the same season, ties broken by EPT standings. So if the replacement from the original line of qualification is no longer possible, that's when ESL has leverage. They can say they'll fill the slot by any means necessary until the start of the first match of the season finals. After that, no more replacements. Slot will remain empty. So by that definition, whoever MaxPax beat last should be the one moving in. That is next in line. So there should be no qualifier tournament.
Also, part of the reason I'm remembering also was given was that they said the EPT points also were too. It was so early on in the season that a very small point difference would have made the difference, which I think is where the whole thing about Lambo should have been the one to replace, or should have been the one to qualify based on those rules of like the EPT point standings mattering. And that was because he was playing in the weeklies. And Raynor, I think, Raynor, he's playing like some of these weeklies and stuff, but he's also like off racing and doing other stuff with it, I think. I'm honestly not the best person to ask about this.
I mean, that is the player's decision.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where I stand. But like their reasoning was, like it's so early on in the season, like Lambo's ahead, but he's ahead because of these weeklies. So his performance in like a couple of these weeklies should that matter? I'm like, yeah, I do think that should matter.
And on top of that, Lambo was not in line to take advantage of that. It's next in line on the qualifier, and if that's not possible, then you move into things, or you talk about tiebreakers. And my reading of this could be wrong.
No longer possible is up for interpretation because it says if replacement from original line of qualification is no longer possible, which no longer possible could mean that it's just convoluted. And I do think it is a little convoluted because MaxPax beat more than one person on his way there, right?
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made for multiple people. So you could say that then ESL will try and fill the slot by any means necessary, starting with the first match of the season finals.
Yeah, I don't know.
Until the first. Yeah.
So then
go ahead.
Oh, well, no, you might be actually about to say the same thing I was going to say.
Well, then you make the point then.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, how far back do you go then? Because in theory, a best of 5 between Showtime and Skillus would be, what you should do. And I think that'd be kind of cool. And then that also fixes one of the problems of having way too few Prodosses a little bit.
Yeah, but that should not be in the decision-making process.
No, that shouldn't be in the No, not at all. But then the other thing is, how far back do you go? Do you go to Mana, who got knocked out by MaxPax? Do you go to Clem, who I qualified anyways, but do you go to like Bly? Because Mana got knocked out on the last day of the actual group stage by MaxPax. Do you put Mana in there? Because he would have been in the same position.
This is a direct plug and place. MaxPax beat the last person MaxPax beat was Skillus. That if you go back in the line, there.
But I think what Dave's point is, would Skillus have beaten Showtime?
Yeah. And if Showtime,
you don't know that.
Per my reading of the rules, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's next in line. Like if you want there to be room for there to be other things, change the rulebook.
Yes.
The other thing, if you know that MaxPax is highly unlikely to accept this offline event, so write it into the rulebook, whatever you want to do, because you know it's an eventuality, but don't.
Next in line also, but here's the thing. This is where I think the ambiguation is, and this is actually I think the way that ESL interpreted their own rules when it was written, based on how that that bracket got generated. Next in line is all of the round of 8, not just the player that MaxPax played. Because that's why Lambo, Alazer, Skillus, and Raynor, the 4 players who got eliminated in the round of 8, end up playing a tiebreaker bracket against each other. Because it's not just who MaxPax beat; it's all the players in the round of 8. That's who next in line actually is, because they all tie for their placement.
Actually, you know what?
That's a valid point.
Maybe, so that appears to be like the intent of the rule.
Okay.
Even if it's not the letter of the rule, right? Because as I think about that more, it says ties broken by EPT points.
Well,
Still, it should have been whoever was in the round of 8 that didn't qualify. there are EPT
by
points there.
points.
It still should have been
That
1
I
point.
agree.
So
It
let's
still should not have been a tournament.
let's make it very clear. Lambo is supposed to go based off of the rule book talking about EPT points. Yes.
I would. I'm not. I don't have the EPT points in front of me, but I'll take your word on it.
The other
Oh,
thing
I
is
assume
apparently they were saying they cut off the EP2 point. I think I heard Lambo say this, that they cut off the when EPT points were starting to be calculated earlier on.
Yeah.
And another important thing, and once again, this is up for interpretation and why it's so messy, and also why they always put into every rule book, every tournament organizer worth their salt will always say, it doesn't matter what the rules say, we can go above and beyond and rewrite them on the fly.
Yeah.
Every single tournament organizer in history should always put that in for exactly this scenario, to be like, you know what, it's a fucked up situation. We got no choice. We got to do something a little bit on the fly. We're trying to do the best we can. So that's already any like legal, because there's realistically probably no legal discourse you can do or nothing you can actually do about it. Recourse, exactly. We're having a ton of legal discourse. But anything that you say is automatically like trumped by this one statement that says ESL. Okay, yeah, there it is right there. ESL reserves the right to amend, remove, or otherwise change this document without further notice. ESL also reserves the right to make judgment on cases not specifically covered by this document in order to preserve the spirit of fair competition and sportsmanship.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of funny because that isn't exactly what I was talking about. I was that like, because this is actually covered by the document.
Specifically covered. Yeah, that's the thing is like, I'm not sure. I would say that usually, I think you're right. Usually a rule book would have some form of like, in case of ambiguity, like, you know, the person at the scene gets to make a decision or whatever alternative it is. But this is very specifically stated. So it's weird that they then kind of, you know, like jerked a little bit to the right, to the left, you know, they're kind of on the straight and narrow, kind of, but not really. So yeah, and I think we've kind of covered that there's some messed up problems when it comes to the rulings and then the repercussions and who gets to go. But I do want to kind of pivot to another discussion, which is probably moot because let's be real, nothing's going to change for StarCraft 2 and the way that it's set up. No one's really putting a lot of time into it, or they don't have the time to put into it, I should say, because I know there's a lot of hardworking people behind the scenes. But I just want to get out there. I don't think MaxPax is an asshole, just in case anyone took that seriously. That was absolutely clickbait. And then I do think that the discussion of a player who repeatedly does not show up for a qualification spot is something that actually would usually have to be discussed. Like, and I said, I don't think it'll ever be actually discussed. I think we're just going to continue having this dilemma until he finally shows up. But I really feel like it should have been addressed. I really feel like basically a MaxPax rule would have to come into effect, because no doubt the assumption was that these things would never happen. Who would consistently deny the spot given to them that gives them more money and more points to make more money in the future? Basically no one. Emergencies happen. So military service happens, or family emergencies happen, or they don't want to tell us. Like Cyril never told us why he didn't go to Valencia. It's fine. All right. So I'm totally on board with MaxPax having his reasons for not doing what he's doing. But I am of the opinion that because even though the text is like, this is a different tournament, this is a standalone tournament, the cogs are already going here. Like, we know what it means to participate in the regionals. We know what more of the end goal is, okay? If it was its own amazing tournament, there'd be a lot more production put into it. It's not. It's a fucking qualifier. And I can't say that on the actual broadcast. But it's just...
for a couple reasons.
it really does blow my mind that this is allowed to happen repeatedly, and then it causes all these screw-ups and it causes all these conversations. And it is one guy who I'm sure is a nice guy, probably socially anxious, and this stuff isn't helping him. And he just, wants to do what he can to have fun playing the game that he loves and make whatever money that he can. But there's repercussions here. He's actually affecting other people. And I feel like he's kind of affecting the whole, like, kind of ecosystem of a year of StarCraft 2 tournaments. So
Yeah.
I am of the opinion that something should change. And I don't want to say that. I want MaxPax to be able to play. He's the best Protoss we got right now, and he's a really fun player. And again, I'm sure he's a nice kid. But that's where I'm at. I don't think he should be able to do that.
It then begs the question: is the scene better off with MaxPax playing in online events and doing all this stuff and not going offline, or is it better off with him not playing at all? And I would argue that even if we don't get him in online events, having him play in ESL Masters and things like that is better for the health of the scene, even if we don't get him. Because, yeah, it sucks, and it does screw up seeding and whatever, absolutely. But on the flip side, I'm going to assume that a tournament that MaxPax is playing in gets more viewership and gets more excitement and gets more engagement than a tournament where MaxPax is not playing. I think at the long and short of it, I think that is probably the calculus that ESL is making. But they're like, yeah, it sucks here, but people are going to show up to people are going to show up and they're going to tune in to watch MaxPax.
Okay, I don't disagree. I think it's basically a moot point. I am extremely pessimistic and negative. Here it comes. With the viewership that the regionals got this year, does it actually matter? It stayed pretty consistent unless there was front page. And, if it was fortunate that the front page happened during a big name bout, that's awesome. But it was around 3,000 for everything, no matter what. And then, people aren't even sure when MaxPax is playing because of the formats that we have, and people just basically acknowledging they're not going to follow it, which is totally fine, not blaming the viewers. But they did it for the groups, they did it for the round robin. So I don't think I would heavily doubt that they're doing calculations, because one, the calculations would be hard to do. Can you actually track if MaxPax brought in viewers, or is it the day, the time? Is it their opponent? Is it the matchup? Blah, 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 blah. And then also that it actually affects it enough that, I don't know, it's something to think about. Well, I would say, this is my final point, I would say that if ESL is it's really not that big of a deal. We just we do this thing and then we move on. That I would totally understand. I think it's a bit unfair, but if they're like, no, we did this, it's over, it's done with, enjoy the tournament, goodbye, I'd also say that's likely and fair of them to do. So I can't judge them for that.
Here's my 2 cents on the thing is I think that I'm with ZombieGrub on this overall, my stance. I like MaxPax. I like watching him play and everything, but I actually do think if I had a voting power in this, I would vote for him to not be able to play in the regionals and stuff. And the reason why is because if you replace MaxPax with someone else, if you just say this was someone else who didn't have as much of an impact on his racial representation and stuff in the scene or any of this stuff, no, I think most people would agree it probably isn't okay. It's the fact that MaxPax is, as Beomulf was saying, he feels like he's doing more for the scene and stuff by playing, that people are more okay with it and stuff. But I think at the end of the day, there's a kind of competitive integrity that does need to be maintained to a degree. It's the same reason why we don't just say, yeah, well, we know that viewership is better when Cyril's playing. So why don't we just invite Cyril if he doesn't qualify? The viewership will be better. Obviously, I'm drawing a somewhat unfair comparison because obviously there's different levels of how much you're corrupting, say, integrity of the tournament and stuff. But I feel like this is kind of going more in that direction. This is going more in the direction of saying, yeah, well, it's because we specifically think that this player is good for our scene. So we're going to allow him to slide by with this thing that we probably wouldn't let anyone else get away with. I think it's in the same line as saying, yeah, we're going to invite a player because we think that it'll be better for our scene or better for our viewership, which is something that, yeah, tournaments exist and do, but they have very clearly, distinctly said, no, you can't have that. They disallow a lot of events from just having flat out invites without a qualifier or a qualification process or EPT. You can't run EPT events if you have too many invites for that reason.
Although feardragon, on that point, the StarCraft scene is vanishingly small. Not vanishingly, I can think of many scenes that are smaller. But
let me counter this really quickly. If MaxPax was not playing, do you think the StarCraft scene would significantly reduce?
No, but I don't think it I'm looking back. So you on YouTube, for example, and by the way, again, that is something that is I think really relevant here because of who the person that because of who Alex is, right? He has that significant YouTube background. MaxPax is one of those magic words on YouTube. It's like MaxPax Beyond and Cyril maybe, where you put a VOD up with them and you get so many more views than you will otherwise. And I can't help but think that is kind of the calculus there, that, maybe it's hard to tell on a Twitch VOD, but part of what ESL is doing is they're producing evergreen content, not just Twitch content.
Are any of those videos, so outside of the ESL ones, I'll say also, outside of the ESL like regional events and stuff, which they only put on their YouTube, no one else is casting those. It's literally just, and I'm not saying like MaxPax shouldn't play in EPT Weekly or anything, or MaxPax shouldn't play in TSL or any of this other stuff. It's literally just, if there is an offline portion for an event for the European regionals and he isn't going to actually participate in that, then yeah, I think it makes sense for that one particular purpose. Where yeah, maybe that, like, I have not looked, but I'm willing to bet that despite MaxPax, I agree, being a very great key search word on YouTube, if I go and look up, say, MaxPax versus Mana or MaxPax versus Lambo or Rainer or something on YouTube from the most recent like ESL seeding or Swiss format, that the viewership is not going to be like some crazy high number that I think should justify an allowance just because we really like this one player.
Yeah, and that's go ahead.
Counter argument to that, you're not going to get the draw because both players aren't great. You need so what this has actually done, this is now expanded the equation for that YouTube thing. So before it was Maru, it was Cyril, maybe Oliveira. Not many players. Beyond sometimes. Yes. But like not many players that you could combine two of them and have a super video on your hands. Now MaxPax is one of those. You've now increased the number exponentially. It's a factorial equation, right? So 1 times 2 times 3 is much smaller than 1 times 2 times 3 times 4, which is much smaller than 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. You know what I'm saying? That's like okay. That's just me.
That's a fair point.
Fine.
Here's a like concrete counterexample. All right, the ESL VODs archive for YouTube, which is again the only, this is for the regional, so this is the only channel that is really covering this that matters anyways, only has like 6K views for MaxPax versus Rainer from the Swiss format.
Yeah, but look at what they're comparing it to. I'm looking for Christiana versus Geralt is 270 views. Skillless Hero Marine is 1.5, so that is, it's not order of magnitude, but it is a significant increase.
Okay, and that's fair. That is actually
is that enough to justify? Probably not, but it is.
Yeah.
It is there.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you too that I have 2 sets of videos from recent stuff, online events, non-related. I have a Cyril versus MaxPax video that has over 6,000 views and rising. I have a Cyril versus Creator video that has 2,000 views.
All right, I'm going to cut off the viewership conversation because at the end of the day, feardragon made this last remark that is, I forget what exactly it was. It was just literally 2 minutes ago. Competitive integrity, and do we do things because they get viewership?
Yeah.
That is the actual argument here. Who cares if it does or doesn't? Do you do it because it gets viewership? And the answer, if you want some integrity and ethics, is no. Okay, and I do love someone in chat said, Planetary Fortresses get a lot of views on YouTube, but you don't force everyone to Planetary Fortress rush. Just wanted to shout that out. It's a weird situation, and I'm not saying that I don't think any of us are saying like MaxPax be damned, out with him, out from the scene forever. But in the unique circumstance that having repeatedly denying this seed or whatever you want to call it has affected other players negatively in a scene that only has one tournament circuit, I think it sucks, but I would prefer it to be kept to a point where you basically expect people to go. So just go ahead and make the rule, in good faith, you have to make an appearance at this offline tournament. That's what I would want. In an ideal world, MaxPax could get this ruling and then say, well, fuck you then, I'm going to go play for Red Bull. I'm going to go play for MLG. I'm going to go play for DreamHack instead of whatever else. But there is only one place. So, yeah, if we said you can't play, if you don't go, then he's not playing in the regionals. He's playing in the online cups every single day, I suppose, and the small tournaments. And it would suck. It would suck, but it's very unique to our situation. Very unique. So people even trying to bring in comparisons to like Magic the Gathering or some shit, it's just, nothing's going to be the same. But you can have whatever opinion you want. It's weird to always have these arguments and conversations and potential detriments to other players because someone so uniquely denies doing things that are expected and even sometimes necessary. Like, for instance, him not having his camera on in regionals. He gets people to pay the fines for him. So I don't know if there's really a point here, just that, I think me and feardragon kind of don't like it and you guys are kind of okay with it. Is that kind of where we're
other
ended?
interesting thing, yeah, that's fair enough. Actually, it does bring up a point though. Apparently, you talk about MaxPax getting people to pay his fines. Apparently, Psystorm has been doing that. So MaxPax has not been coming out of it. It's not been coming out of his own pocket. It's been Psystorm paying every single fine that ESL has levied, which is, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I guess it's fine. It's the team, but that is, I guess, more context into what's happening.
So on that note, I actually gonna say, like, I think you actually mentioned that to me and ZombieGrub and Dave the other day, and like, I didn't quite understand that because I may be misreading the rules, but there's two parts to this that I think maybe make this like that's not been an issue. One is that total transparency. When we're on those regional casts and stuff, like obviously this most recent season is a very different example because we basically didn't do any interviews.
Yeah.
Because shit's hard production wise and stuff to get all that set up and everything. But like in the past year, 2 years, 3 years of the regionals, the casters would sit together, our production manager or producer, whoever would basically ask us, hey, should we do the interview? We want to get a couple of interviews today or something. Should we do this set of players for the interview? And when MaxPax won, unless it was like a really, really amazingly good series, like he just beat Cyril or, just did something incredible, we would say, no, he's not going to have his camera on. If we had just decided that that wasn't a factor, then we would have asked him and he would have been actually getting taxed more. And this is where I want to get to the other point. I could be misreading the rules, but I believe that the infractions are actually like, it goes from first infraction is like some percentage of your prize money. And then like the second infraction, it's 50% of your prize money plus something. And then the third infraction is 100% of your prize money plus. So I actually think if we were doing that proper way, and maybe I'm misreading this, maybe I'm misunderstanding if it's like 100% more of what the original infraction was, which was just like $50 or like $100 something. I could be reading this wrong, so don't take my word for it. Go read the rulebook yourself. But I think MaxPax could have literally just been losing all of his prize money. So I'm not sure that Psystorm was truly eating the cost of what that really would have meant.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. Although technically, and again, this is going into the weeds a little bit, technically every single time he shows up on broadcast without a camera, that should be an instance in and of itself. So clearly that's not happening. Like MaxPax makes $8,000 and Psystorm is likely not paying ESL 12 to make that happen, even if that is technically however many matches he played times that. So I mean, I'm looking at what you're looking at, feardragon.
Yeah.
And either they are and actually they have specific interview. And it's not 150%. That's missing broadcast obligations, which I don't know what that is. But missing a camera during interview is the next page where it says, if it's a group stage you're playing, it's $15 and 1% of the prize money.
You're misreading this because if you look at the section, it's 6.18 is the section saying this is the missing broadcast obligations thing. If you miss these obligations, which they list further below, then the first incident will just be that fine. The second will be that fine plus 50%. The third incident will be that fine plus 100% of your, I believe it's of your prize pool. And then it goes on to list what the missing broadcast obligations are.
Okay.
And he said all of these.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's actually crazy. I've never looked into this before, but are we?
Oh yeah, this is why I have fun getting drunk every year and reading the rule book, because there's some really weird stuff in here sometimes.
Oh yeah. Okay, no, you're right, feardragon. Never mind.
so this does beg the question then, because we haven't been sensitive at all about why he might not be doing it.
Okay.
If there is something, let's say that it's a physical disfigurement.
Okay.
Try and put that. Try and state that. You're getting sued. You're getting the shit sued out of you. You are absolutely getting.
Wait, are you?
Someone
On what standing?
Yeah,
like
are you?
The player agrees.
Discrimination.
The player agrees to partake in a tournament setting.
Yeah.
Therefore, by agreeing to compete in that setting, they bind themselves to the terms of the agreement.
Yeah, I don't think this is grounds for discrimination at all.
And
Dave,
If it was some kind of physical ailment or like something that was outside of the player's control.
Yeah, but on top of that, and again, playing devil's advocate here, Dave, a physical disfigurement does not prevent you from showing on air. It may make you not want to show on air, but it is not anything that would be, in my mind, would be ruled to be in some way massively problematic for the pursuit of human happiness or whatever the standard you use for, right? Needing a wheelchair, needing a ramp for a wheelchair, fine. Not wanting to show your face.
Okay, but even that,
question.
Going back to what you guys were saying before, like even like say if you were in a wheelchair or something and you had to do something that was very physically demanding that would have been nearly impossible, if not impossible, to do in a wheelchair, like you can't sue someone for not hiring you for that job, right?
Yeah.
Like
no, but that's not what's at stake. What is because in order to play StarCraft at a high level, you don't need to show your face. That's not required. That's not required to play StarCraft at a high level. You kind of do, though.
Okay, so let's say this was the case, all right? Then he would be able to avoid all these fines because he would have that, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
And he's actively getting fined. Like, we know he's getting fined because Psystorm has said that they are paying the fines.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, I don't know what my point is here, but basically this is not actually a point of contention because it's not true. He does not have anything that his...
The thing is, though, we don't actually know that it's not true.
He pays the fines, all right? So if there was grounds for him to be like, whoa, that's discrimination, he would not be paying those fines.
Yeah. In my mind, there's three scenarios. One is that somehow we're mistaken and Psystorm isn't paying those fines. I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm listening at the scenarios of like, not necessarily in terms of likeliness or anything.
Okay.
There's just like some literal possible scenarios. Second is that ESL is not finding him as defined in the rulebook and is just finding him like just finding a minor amount or something. I think I said three scenarios, but there's actually four. Third scenario is that we're misreading the rulebook somehow, and this is like one of those things where, or maybe ESL is rewriting the rulebook as things happen as they've done before. And it's not like 100% of their prize money. It's like just small percentage or something. And the fines are not actually that big. Somehow it's just being misread. And the fourth, which I think is very unlikely, is Psystorm is just paying the entirety of MaxPax's prize pool with these fines and is just okay with it. That one I think is also the least likely. I think even the first one is more likely that
I think that, and that's what I'm referring to, right? Like we got to look at Occam's razor to figure out like what the most likely is. I'm not saying the scenario I'm presenting is the most likely, but I am saying that there's a possibility.
The most likely scenario is that he has extreme social anxiety and doesn't want to show his face. That honestly is the most likely.
Yeah.
But like you wouldn't play a tournament then where you're literally paying to play, because if you're giving 150% of the prize pool that you win, then you are not going to play in that tournament. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Unless you're literally royalty.
It's a good point. So why does he do it?
Well, but what I mean is that
if Psystorm is covering all the fines, then why not?
Well, okay, sure. But how likely is that if they follow the rules?
I can tell you that they're almost definitely not.
Yeah, there's no way they're covering all the prize.
We can't say 100%, but I'm pretty sure Psystorm isn't just covering like 10K plus fines.
Yeah, that's not making a profit off of MaxPax playing in these tournaments. That's not possible. Yeah. Because for this tournament, for just ESL Masters Summer Regional, they would have made $4,000 off of MaxPax playing. ESL would have made a profit of $4,000 off of MaxPax playing.
That's funny.
So
that's why they keep letting them play, guys.
We figured it out.
That would actually be hilarious if it was some like super like sketchy stuff where it's like, yeah, they're like, yeah, no, he's allowed to play.
Telling you, Danish Prince. Danish Prince.
Funny.
That's what it is.
This actually is hilarious. I think we've kind of gone through a lot of possibilities. At the end of the day, I feel really bad pointing it out to MaxPax, all right? Like, kind of thankfully he's a anonymous figure because I kind of feel like a dick. But I think it's a very interesting scenario because it is so unique. It's like, I don't think it's ever happened anywhere else in like media competition.
Any esports, yeah.
Even traditional sports, right? Like, there's just no way. So, you know, I wish I could take the name away and not talk about him and just be like, you know, in a hypothetical. But he's giving us the real world hypothetical. So I'm sorry if you ever watch this, MaxPax. You know, none of us hate you or anything like that. But it causes problems. It raises questions. It raises suspicions. It makes us question if he's having the rules bent for him, which obviously has, you know, other problems with that and so on and so forth.
It's not like ESL doesn't have a history of bending rules.
I think this is actually, I'm so glad you actually said that, ZombieGrub, as well, because this is why I think rulebooks are very important. This is the reason why, is because it's to make things not personal. It's to make things so that there are basically just actual rules everyone agrees on beforehand, and then it doesn't become a personal situation of like, oh, well, I really like or I don't like this player. Let's find a way to punish this person or to reward them. Like, that's the reason why we want to have these rule books. That's the reason why we want to try and stick to them when possible. And that's the reason why it becomes very controversial when you start changing the rules on the fly or these kind of situations come up and you say, well, is that actually being enforced? And I know that that's, you know, there's oftentimes, as we were talking about before, like the extra rules that get added to these rule books that's basically are the FU, we're running this, we can do whatever we want and change things on the fly when we want kind of things. I know those things exist, but I do think the more you invoke that, the less integrity I feel like the tournament system has. And it's not about like a particular player, it's not about liking or relationships or anything. It's supposed to be about like, hey, we all agreed to this contract and we're going to play it out. And if there was a bad mistake or something in the contract, we're going to make sure, damn sure, we're get it right next time. That's the way I think it should be. Sorry, yeah.
No, my bad. And we've seen what happens when a scene loses trust in what happens. I mean, really big example. Look at Savior. Look at Brood War. Look at what happened with Life. Like, obviously, this is not to that same level of extent, but when the rules aren't fair for everyone, it massively hinders and harms the scene. So, yeah, I'm with you. I despite that, I can't help but feel that, I don't know. I feel like there's a better solution than just banning him from the biggest tournaments, though. Especially considering apparently he was very close to attending Katowice this year.
Yeah.
From rumors I've heard. And like, we want to encourage him to do that, not just to ban him from the ecosystem in its entirety, and then we never get him.
Yeah. I think it's important that we make it very clear that it's not even in the same ballpark or the same zip code as something like a Savior or a Life situation.
Oh, God, no.
I just want to make that abundantly clear that it's not even remotely comparable.
No.
That's all.
And again, very unique situation. So I brought it up earlier. There's hardly any comparisons, but definitely not that comparison.
So I'm looking for one where it's like, you know, the scene loses trust in how everything is run, and obviously, yeah. I don't know that there's another example we have, though.
Also, the other thing that's interesting is that until this tournament, he had never actually qualified for a bigger tournament via this.
Fair.
So this is actually the first time that it's actually come up.
Yeah, besides the Katowices. So
yeah, and
that's a good point.
Yeah, although I feel like he's knocked people out that might have qualified otherwise.
That is another argument.
Yes.
But
until he turns it down, there's no actual.
There's no way to know.
There's no proof that he. Regardless, like, I feel like we've talked about this.
Yeah, I think we're kind of at the end here. You know, people are always gonna have different opinions, and like I said, it probably just boils down to them being like, stop. You know, what are you guys doing? Stop making a big deal of it. And we're gonna live. We're gonna move on and live. But it is at the very least fascinating if you really do just take kind of the people out of it and just go like, what if this happens? in any competition that's broadcast? It's a good question. But anyways, let us move on and let us actually get to, I guess, probably the what he's usually most well known for a talk show, which is talking about like the brackets and our predictions and stuff. Now that we got it all clear about the format and who's going to be there and why everyone's there, we have the bracket set up. And while we were doing this talk show, we also got the schedule. I like their optimism, as always. But the bracket, as we had said, so there's Group A, Group B is how they're referring to the brackets, because sure. And then it goes to playoffs if you win, and then you go into the knockout bracket round 4 if you lose, win. And the knockout bracket round 4 is quite far along. I think you're already another qualifying match. Yeah. So that's just to get everyone refresher, because we kind of went everyone which way. So let's talk about the actual players. So we do have some really cool matches right off the bat, which we pointed out can sometimes be kind of sad because, we want Maru and Reina to be the best of 7 finals, but another fashion is also kind of cool because you don't have to cast Joe versus Bob, which is cool.
That's my favorite part of the tournament, ZG.
Joe.
We hardly knew ye.
But let's go into Group A. Mara, Raynor, Estrella Spirit, Scarlet Bunny, Solar Beyond. What are you guys thinking? Steadfast.
I think Mara beats Raynor. Oh, sorry, go Steadfast.
Okay. I was just choosing someone to call 911,
Oh, yeah. I think Maru beats Raynor. Raynor's been struggling a little bit in ZVT. I think Estrella's going to beat Spirit, and then I think Maru and Estrella's actually going to be. I think it's going to go to game. No, that's a best of 3. I think it's going to go to game 3, and I think it's going to be really close. I think people are going to be like blown away by how good Estrella is. Bunny's going to beat Scarlet. Solar's going to beat Beyond. Bunny's going to beat Solar. Cyril is going to beat Coffee. Classic's going to beat Dark. And then Cyril's going to embarrass Classic. And we're going to be like, holy shit, Classic's so good at PvZ. And then Cyril's going to be like, and he's just going to absolutely punt him off a cliff. Because that's what he always does when we have hope about a player that's not MaxPax. And then Oliveira, Clem, Gumiho, Cure, you can flip 16 coins, and that's how that will be decided. Because that is impossible to predict.
That's a nice breakdown. Do you guys believe in Bunny's chances of winning a championship this year?
Please, God, yes.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I'm a bit on the negative Nancy side of that.
I think specifically because Bunny after Katowice has kind of a bit of a result. Like, he's here, fine. He top 6 GSL, good job. He's had a bit of a top 4. You're right, but I feel like he's not passing the eye test. He's had no KWTL, and maybe he's going to start to train up again. I don't know, but I feel like he's not performing to the same level that he was last year. And this is a feel statement more than anything else. So please let me, like, if I'm wrong, that's fine. But it felt like he kind of had this big opportunity last year, and then he slumped hard. And when you're going to have to beat down Maru, like, Maru is always going to have a top seed this year because he's going to do well in the GSL. You have to beat Cyril, which he did last year. I mean, to be fair, but this is a Maru that suddenly, I think Maru is actually playing better than he did last year, right? He got not exposed, but he lost in a TVT. So that one matchup where, okay, Bunny is like this one player who can take maps off Maru before Oliveira did. Well, Maru's TVT has gotten a lot better ever since Katowice, where he did lose that.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the interview? He's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I could beat Oliveira 1,000 times now and I won't get over this.
Yeah.
He was really mad about it.
He took that personally.
Yeah.
Very much so.
He took that personally.
Yeah. I mean, someone brings up, Oliveira did win after all, so it says Bunny can't. But to kind of corroborate your hypothesis, your theory there, the eye test, I don't think people predicted Bunny to get as far as he did last year anyways, right? Like, fair. I think Bunny's very much a Korean Terran who everyone acknowledges is very good, and it can be very exciting to play, but is not going to be expected to win tournaments. I mean, no one picks him as the favorite.
I think Steadfast and I, or at least Steadfast, was singing his praises because he was the best Terran in the WTL last year. It was by a significant margin. He was very, very good. And that was best of 2s, fine.
Yes.
But I mean,
Not
Team
just
League
that,
performance precipitated Creators Rise last year, and in general, you can look at that. You're like, okay, well,
that's actually a great example. That's fantastic. Creators Rise was pretty good, and then obviously completely failing at the finish line.
oh yeah, disappeared. Yeah.
Well, failing at the finish line. I mean, he's still around, but he just is like, yeah, he's finally gonna do it, and then he gets absolutely bopped. So, no, that's
not
funny.
fair, CG.
Yeah, he didn't get absolutely bopped. He 5-0'd a best of 5 and then lost 2-3. That was Creator's emotions.
Oh yeah. No,
Wait, what are you talking about?
The GSL. Creator should have won that GSL finals. Like he had, it was, what was it, 4-2? I think Rogue won, but they definitely should have been, like, some of those games should have been Creator's games.
I'm talking about I Am Katowice.
Yeah, I
okay,
very
sorry.
much got the impression you were talking about two different series.
Oh, my bad.
Anyways, I would say, okay, so bopped is too strong of a word. The point is he didn't actually make it to the finals. Like, the bar that I set was winning. And if Creators...
For Katowice?
I was talking about GSL.
A tournament.
Oh, a tournament.
A tournament. And Creator's not done that either, despite his success in the team league. So that's why I think this is actually a perfect example. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, when I talk about Creators Rise, I'm talking about Creator doing well in team league in, what was it, 2021, doing very, very well, and then goes and makes the GSL finals of season 1 of the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And he should have won. Like, realistically, he didn't. But
Bunny
that is
should have
Creator's
won
mental
Atlanta.
falling apart.
Bunny should have won Atlanta.
Bunny should have won Atlanta. Yeah. But
But that wasn't.
I mean, that
wasn't mental failure. That was just Hero showing like all-time class.
I feel like we're like I'm literally just saying the facts. Creator was doing well. Everyone was hyping him up. He didn't make it. Bunny was doing well. Everyone was hyping up. He didn't make it. Like, that's why this is funny because I literally started this off saying I agreed with Beomulf, and Beomulf is like, well, hold on. But yeah, I don't. He's not a favorite to win a tournament.
Yeah, no, my argument, sorry, we got into the weeds. My argument is that if you were kind of looking team league results, I think maybe Steadfast would have said that, okay, he's going to have those results last year. Into whatever you're saying, like, oh, I don't think anyone saw Bunny making a deep run. Well, I'm not saying he wins a tournament, just so we're clear.
Sure.
I'm just saying that I think maybe his performance was a little bit more kind of precipitated or more predicted than absolutely no one.
Okay.
But,
anyways, I just thought that up because it is one of the cooler storylines if he does get far. He's probably, him and Creator are probably, I would say, the people, like the, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but when they get far, people really get on the edge of their seat. They're not necessarily like watching their entire run, in my opinion, like from the get-go. I mean, there's obviously some big fans of them, but then when they finally get close, everyone's like, it's finally happening. Oh my God, the tears are going to flow.
I want him to win.
There you go, yeah. But I completely sidetracked. feardragon, your thoughts on the bracket?
Yeah, we're gonna have Estrella, Scarlet taking the top bracket. We're gonna have Coffee, Oliveira taking the bottom bracket. All the Europeans and Koreans are gonna get eliminated. Top 4 is just gonna be those 4 actually as well. And what we're gonna end up eventually seeing is that next year ESL will announce another renewed circuit, and they're actually gonna just be dissolving the America and Asia region, just putting everything in Europe and Korea. So.
Luckily, she has headphones in, so she can hear the absolute insanity that feardragon was peddling.
I was rolling my eyes. Like, I'm pretty sure my mom thought I was having like a seizure or something. So, no, but Estrella going far, I think. What Steadfast, you said you were really confident in him. It is interesting, though.
I think he looks really good right now. Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
He's gonna do some shit with Templar that's gonna make people's minds melt.
He doesn't beat Spirit. Like, I'm sorry. Estrella had a solid run. In Americas, yeah, he won. Did good job. Spirit has also been intensely impressive. The maps are very good for Terran, and specifically, 7 to 10 minutes are a horrible, just a terrible situation for us to play into.
Yeah.
And yeah, is Spirit more of a late game Terran? Sure, fine, but I don't think this is gonna happen. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Estrella is back onto it again, but I don't think he beats Spirit. If it does, it's going to be a hard-fought series. In fact, I'm going to go one further. I'm looking at this bracket, and outside of the TVT, outside of Coffee, I don't think we see a single non-Terran in the top side advancing to playoff bracket. Well, actually, sorry, that's not possible because Dark and Classic is it doesn't have a Terran in it. But Oliveira wins. You know, Cure probably wins. I don't really know between the two of them. Coffee loses, sure, but Maru wins, Spirit wins, Bunny wins, Bjorn wins. Assuming Bjorn has his wrists. I think this is going to be the story of the Terran once again. The maps are good, and at least when you talk about TVP, they got some issues they need to fix.
I think I'll bet you a beer at the next event that Straya beats Spirit.
I'll take that.
All right. Yeah, because I got faith. I got faith in our boy Max Angel. I think he can do it.
As it is a best.
I didn't know that
three.
you embraced sports betting, Dave.
Oh
It is
yeah,
the
You
best
know how
three.
much damage that's done to our scene?
well, not enough to prevent me from continuing.
Oh my god! No, I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah. By the way, just if you're curious, it's like 63% for Spirit per League Elect. So
Oh, I don't give a shit what a league
Yeah,
Elect
That's
Oh,
says.
cool.
I-
It's gonna make it even more painful when he loses. Then
In my opinion, Estrella is better off as a best of three.
that's fair.
Spirit actually hasn't been. He like peaked really hard, and he's kind of been backtracking a little bit. And he's losing against either like one or two Protosses I don't expect him to. Like for instance, Mana has some secret that throws Spirit off like 8 times out of 10 or something. I don't know what the hell it is. But even when he was peaking, occasionally he'd meet Mana in the open bracket, and then he'd lose, and I'd be like, well, huh.
Well, I mean, that's like Clem and Gung Fu Bandit, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Is anyone gonna say that Clem is bad because he loses to Gung Fu Bandit? No, it's just Gung Fu has
Well,
the secret sauce.
Yeah, that's that.
I can't
yeah.
say is anyone gonna say that because there
I was gonna
are
say,
people who
oh, okay,
do.
that's
Yeah.
fair,
So
you
many
know?
people will say that.
It's just not reasonable people.
Yeah, they're exactly. They're unreasonable is a good way of putting it. Also, I will say that Clem is no longer weak against that, and that actually leads to the next point. I think we're sleeping on Clem a little bit. I think he could actually come through that TVT
Mm-mm-mm.
portion.
Mm-mm.
You haven't seen
Offline
enough
Clem?
of his recent stuff. Then
Steadfast, I have seen so many incredible Clem games online. We've seen him do incredibly well, and he is a lesser version of Beyond, where he will do great in online events.
no, that's
But
not fair.
He disappoint. It's his worst matchup, and it's offline. And Oliveira has showed us just how strong his mental is after that Katowice run. No. I'd love to see it. Like Clem finally showing good online results, but
Nah,
Clem qualifies through the lower bracket.
No, I don't think so, because the only times Clem hasn't done well is, well, actually no. Okay, so Beyond, when something goes wrong for Beyond, he collapses.
Okay, sorry.
He
When
goes
I
from
say-
being like a really good player, like a player that can beat literally anyone in the world, to being like a shadow of himself. It's very unfortunate. But Clem, when he loses, he's like really close.
No,
Like
okay.
the only thing is he misses the strategic aspects. I think he needs a coach.
And but just to clarify here, when I say lesser version of Beyond, I'm not saying worse than Beyond. I'm saying that they're in a similar situation where they're really good online and then perform less offline.
I just want to correct something. Clem's TVT is actually his second best.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it now?
Below
It's not his
TVP,
worst.
above TVZ.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
kind of curious about that too because I was like, whenever I think of Clem, I'm just like, I thought it was just TVP. TVP is like the thing that I always think of Clem as like, oh
Yeah.
no, here it comes.
He had some weird.
TVP, really?
No, well, that was months
Good.
ago. But I think feardragon's
That-
right as far as months ago. He was definitely weird versus Protoss, and he admitted that too. But he's fixed that, and that the patch and the balance and whatnot might have helped. His TVT is actually probably the best in Europe. Like I don't think that's
Yes.
arguable. And
Not-
so
it's
if
not.
that's the case, then he is very much capable of taking on Oliveira because Hero Marine certainly is.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at that though, Oliveira, Hero Marine TVT, online versus offline Oliveira, same thing. I think we can almost wholesale throw out any results.
We can't call Oliveira's success offline Oliveira yet. In my opinion.
No, I'm not saying we can, but that's a lag argument that I'm making right now. Like, I think a lot of what we can say is when we look at interregional competition with Oliveira, it's.
I was
I'm not going to
thinking
say
of
we can.
I was thinking of Katowice,
Okay.
where they were very close.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
I'm doing the since Here Marine can take on Oliveira, but not quite, Clem beats Here Marine, Clem can beat Oliveira.
I mean, the flip side, does Clem ever beat Maru?
I think he can.
I think he can now.
Clem in his current state absolutely
When's
can.
the last time he
100%.
faced Maru?
It's been a long time.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And if anything, Maru could
November
literally
2022.
look back and be like, oh, he used to be really bad at TVT. Like Maru, I wouldn't even be surprised if he just thinks that Clem is still terrible at TVT.
Yeah.
And we say terrible because, like, obviously we're referring to like the top 10 Terrans in the world. He will not be. He is not the player that he was before, where he was exploitable.
Yeah.
In order to beat Clem now, you have to beat Clem.
Although, by the way, you say it's his second best matchup. At least per current form, it is still his worst matchup. So, in the last month or so. Granted, obviously, it's different. You're playing against different players, and you can't just take win rates in and of itself. But as it stands, is TVT's his best matchup. TVT's his worst.
Yeah, I understand the form and the overall was different, but when you watch him play TVT, he's a beast.
He's markedly better.
Yeah, yeah. He doesn't just win against Here Marine. It's always been a tough battle. He's like stomping him now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very different. So I think he is favored versus Oliveira. I am worried that Clem offline is still a little bit worse than online. But one thing that he noted to me was that he does, for some reason, he doesn't think of it, but he researched it, I guess you could say. Like he thought back to it. He does better in double elimination formats for some reason. And that so far has been true.
Interesting.
So that might mean that he does lose versus Oliveira, but then he makes a strong run in the lower bracket because that's what he's done before. But yeah, I actually think he might be more comfortable in this situation, even if he can't pinpoint why. Because he didn't have a concrete reason as to why he does better in double elimination. He just was no, I just seem to.
Did you take a look at does he in those double eliminations? Does he still do deep upper bracket runs, or is it?
No, it's a lot of the lower bracket runs. That's why I said it might be possible that he loses against Oliveira and runs deep. But I think he's going to be more comfortable in this type of situation where he does have he actually has 2 lives to give. And it's something that he can also plan for, which with the group stages obviously is a lot more difficult. He can literally play only TVT to get to the playoffs. That not just can, that's literally what's going to happen. So I think that favors him, but then that might be taking away Oliveira's credit because it is so easy to do so. Because we remember him for Katowice, and then people are very cognizant and saying, like, well, that was special. But then he is good when he was time. He was also very well respected. So it's not like he's going to be bad if it's not Katowice. I think it'll be a good match, but I would bet on Clem.
Yeah. Oliveira has to lose 3 times, which thankfully he can lose twice, but he has to lose 3 times in order to kick into high gear, as we saw at Katowice. So. And that would eliminate him from the tournament now.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. And I mean, the other thing we got to point out, Oliveira in DreamHacks is very different from Oliveira from Katowice. Technically, he didn't win a single series when he played Atlanta. So
that's true.
Clearly, we're digging deep into the trends here to find something to talk about.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think it comes down to what I said at the very beginning, where you could flip a bunch of coins, and it's going to be, because we haven't even talked about Gumiho Kure. Kure's looking like a world champion right now. Like he put up a super close GSL finals in terms of like overall skill. Now I think he fell apart a little bit at the tail end, like mentally, but I mean, name a list of players against Maru that haven't done that. Like it's not a very long list.
Oliveira.
Yeah. Well, but that didn't go.
A list of players who have caused Maru to mentally break down.
TY.
Yeah, he actually did. Yeah. Which was so sick. That was actually, God, that game 5 was so fucking good. God, I was so excited. But Gumiho, Kure, both of them, such good players in TVT. Kure, like the most standard of all time. Gumiho, like the most wonky tactical of all time. Like both of them. And literally any one of these 4 players could make it through so easily. And they all, at the exact same time, they could so easily go out without winning a map. Like, especially because it's best of 3, and you could so easily have, like, oh, okay, I'm coming in, I'm going to double proxy Rax Marauder you. Oh, I went run 1 Rax expand, I'm dead. All right, and I'm down 1-0. Oh, an 8-minute tank push came in and caught me out of position at my third base. I'm dead. All right, well, that was a 12-minute series and I'm gone. Or you could have an hour-and-a-half series. Like, literally anything could happen in this mini bracket. I think it's the most wide open of all of them.
And this patch was somewhat of a significant buff to Gumiho, right? Because he is that crazy player, and with Ravens becoming less dominant and getting cheaper, Ravens in the late game becoming less dominant. But in general, it felt like this patch in TVT unlocked a lot of openings. Like, when I say this patch, of course, I'm talking about the pre-Katowice patch. Because we're not seeing Barracks, Double Gas Factory, CC every single game. It felt like in Katowice and onwards, we've seen more varied TVT play. And I mean, Kira's a system tear, and Gumiho is Chaos incarnate. That it does feel like that has been, I'm not going to say it favors Gumiho in this series necessarily, but that has been kind of favoring the way he wants to play a TVT.
Yeah.
Excellent
Maybe
analysis.
All right. Who wins the tournament? Jumping all the way ahead.
Austria.
Sarah.
He might make a deep run. I don't know that he beats Maru, though.
I think Mario's going to be
Cyril.
crying in his hotel room after day one.
I mean, we could see the return of Ford Maru, the guy who does not perform an offline event or in international events. I mean, that hasn't been true in the last year or so, but it's historically kind of been true.
I think we're going to know halfway through day one whether Raynor wins the tournament or not. If he shows up against Maru, he's going to win the tournament. If not, he's going to bomb out. And if he does show up, I'm saying Raynor. If not, Cyril.
I mean, Steadfast, I do want to say, though, like, look at Katowice. We had this, Raynor was looking untouchable in the group stage.
Yeah, but he ran into plot armor.
Yeah.
No one beats plot armor. It doesn't matter how good you are.
Oliveira was a Tavarine. You are correct.
Yeah, that was just too
Skeins of
special.
fate weaved around him. Yeah. No. Oliveira. Special got knocked out. In some of the worst group stage luck we've seen. Like, he really shouldn't have. Yeah, I felt bad. Anyway. I don't know. I think Maru's been looking solid. But that's the safe choice.
Yeah, I mean, the typical runs, right? Maru, Raynor, Cyril are still good bets, even though Maru and Raynor face each other right off the bat.
How deep does someone go from the open bracket?
You start a knockout round one. Bottom out.
We'll have from the very open.
Yeah, from the 32 players.
We'll have one player from the round get to the round of 8.
No further than that. No further than that. You don't think like a Hero or Showtime make top 4?
I'm thinking Hero actually.
I'm just like, someone of that caliber. Obviously, Hero's better than Showtime, but
I think MaxPax is going to sign up for the open bracket and
God, what a timeline that would be.
Gamer move that would be. He shows up. He's like 6'8", 245 pounds of raw muscle. just he like presses the key, like he's just so like Giga Chad, presses key buttons and like literally multiple things happen at once. Yeah, that would be cheating though. That wouldn't work. But yeah, I don't know. I think Hero. I think Hero will make to the round of 8.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyways, but he's really looked quite confused. Maybe he'll study up on MaxPax, I guess.
Although,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to segue.
Yeah, to talk of him looking confused. I mean, he was saying that when he won Atlanta last year. He was saying that when he won top 4, or when he got top 4 of Katowice last year. So Hero's been saying Hero's been publicly saying that he feels confused about how like specifically TVP works for a year and a half now, and in that time he's won significant tournaments and done very well. Well, in fairness, he won the GSL and then said he didn't like. But no, yeah, he was kind of saying that even going into it. So I don't know. He's one of those guys you talk about, just like Raynor. He can look on top of the world and he can just look like he has no idea what he's doing, and it just depends on how aggressive he decides to play. Really. Sorry to prevent the segue.
Yeah, I was just gonna, I think we've talked a lot about our predictions. So, and then the open bracket is it's a big question mark because we don't have it seeded out and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, end the tournament discussion on the schedule, because what do you guys think Sunday is going to be 8 hours?
It never is.
Be honest with me.
I don't trust any schedule I get, CG.
I wouldn't book your flight for right after. I'll say that.
Yeah, no, that'd be dumb.
You could explore the great city of Jonkoping, where there is so much to do when the tournament's over.
Actually, I am staying.
You get-
I am staying there
so
for a couple extra days.
You guys
nice.
have 12 best of 3s for the first day.
Yeah.
12 hours.
12 best of 3s? I said,
No, the schedule says you'll have 12 best of 3s knocked out in what is that? 11 hours?
What? On day one?
Day one
day
has
one?
day one says it's going to be about 8.5 hours.
Yeah.
12 to 21:10.
Yeah.
Well, there
No,
are
2020.
2 streams.
You
right?
might be
Well-
looking at the old schedule.
Yeah,
I'm
and on
looking
top
at the
of that,
schedule
well,
that Alex sent me.
All right. Well,
also
they just
2110
tweeted.
would be the end of it.
Oh,
Because,
they just tweeted something? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, they
and
tweeted
also-
a thing?
Yeah. Here.
Yeah. Also, it makes sense. Like 2110 would be, what is that? 50 minutes after winners group B lower bracket round 2. So you're looking at a schedule that says the end time, I think. And we're looking at 2020 for start time. So
No. This is supposed to be start time for the final match, but maybe it got cut out.
Might have.
I think a match got cut out or something from the schedule he sent me.
We're doing
yeah, never mind.
6 best of 3s. That actually 8 hours seems like too long for that.
yeah, but offline slowdown, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's a much more appropriate guess for sure.
Yeah, no, literally. So in the schedule that I have, it's like every single round, like basically has 2 matches that were being covered for that. So it'd be winners group A round 1, winners group A round 1 in my schedule. On the schedule for the tweet that you guys linked, it literally just has it once.
Hmm. Well, there's a B stream, right? So
But-
there's
It has it once on that schedule, but I noticed that it's allowing an hour and 40 minutes for every one of those matches.
Mm-hmm.
that is a long
So
time.
I think that the tweeted schedule is like a condensed schedule where it still has the same start times for things, but it's just not listing every item.
That would be really dumb.
I think according to the schedule I have, I'm just gonna send it to you guys. It's about 50 minutes scheduled for each best of 3.
I think they just changed it, dude.
I mean, you could be right. It's just that the times are actually the same in what I'm seeing. It's just the only difference is that my thing says that there are 2 matches happening in that same time slot.
Yeah, A and B stream, right?
Yeah,
Is there a B
Does
stream?
this
There is a
matter
B
too much?
stream.
Because
there is.
I have to go. I have to go
okay.
at 6. So
No, it doesn't matter a whole lot. I think
Yeah.
the as far as the A stream, the schedule is correct. The day one's actually quite reasonable. Same with day 2. It's day 3 that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 best of 5s and a best of 7 that's in 8 hours. And I don't think that's gonna.
that's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
There's no
that's a bit
fucking way.
unrealistic.
Not
but
a
we'll
chance.
see. We'll see.
I mean, who knows? We might have a bunch of 2 racks and then everything's done quick.
Yeah,
Although those can be long games too. So
yeah. They 2 racks and then it goes on for 50 minutes.
yeah.
So we're actually gonna go ahead and move on because I think we've really talked about this upcoming tournament a lot. We have what? I don't know what this text is. We have general esports things to talk about. There it is, topic, and that is I think a very interesting one because again, it's incredibly unique. So League of Legends, if you guys haven't heard, has been having a lot of trouble. All right, I think I have to kind of set up a little bit of a backstory that I also am not I'm not super invested or anything like that. I come and go. But the general thing, the gist, I guess, is that League of Legends has 3 different main regions, right? Korea, Europe, and North America. And North America has been, well, to use I'm going to say dying. It's not been doing well. It's been decreasing in viewership and interest for some time. And there's plenty of people's, hypotheses as to why that is the case, but I don't know. I don't have a certain opinion. What does actually matter and is interesting is that very recently, as of last week, I believe, or a week and a half ago, something like that, League of Legends has an informal player union. The North American League of Legends as an informal player union. I say informal because unlike, I guess, formal unions, they don't have to do any votes to do a walkout. It's just anyone who agrees does it. Where if it was a union, you'd have to actually like vote in favor, and then everyone would have to do it. Is my limited understanding.
Not quite true, in that if you are in a formal union and you vote for, and there is a vote for a strike, technically, at least it varies state by state, I think, but like in my state, in New Hampshire, because we just my grad program just unionized, and one of the key things is like, okay, we strike, no one is required to strike, but it's obviously looked down upon, whatever. So it there's a little bit more nuance, I guess.
Okay.
And it does get a little weird, but
it's not super important anyways.
Can we back up fair enough. Off track. There's context before this. I actually did a little bit of a deep dive on this, so I'm happy to provide some.
Well, I'm not done.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So they have a non-formal player union, and the non-formal player union decided to do a walkout, which is why we started talking about that.
Yeah.
So they, like, legitimately, they all said that they weren't going to play in the LCS. And the reason they said they weren't going to play in the LCS was because, I believe, of, and this is where feardragon could jump in, but is because of the way they were treating the academy players. So basically, Riot came out with a new way of organizing the overall tournament. So all these tournaments have, like, the big bang, you know, the main potato, the main course, which is LCS. And then they have, like, their academy leagues, right? Challenger or Path to Pro, whatever you want to call it, equivalent. And they were getting dicked over. So do you have any more elaboration there, feardragon?
Yeah, so from my understanding, basically, like the way that NA or like the North American LCS stuff is set up is that they have basically a 3-tier system.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like collegiate / amateur, which feeds into what they call Challenger League, which actually in some ways, you know, similar to like Challenger Premier for StarCraft or whatever, right? But Challenger was a required thing. So if a team wanted to have a spot in NA LCS, which is like their Premier League, they had to field a Challenger League team. So they had to invest that. And the teams have been pressuring Riot well before all this started to just say like, hey, this costs too much for us to field these Challenger League teams because we're putting all these people like in Los Angeles and paying them and all this stuff. Like, it costs too much. We don't have enough money to do this and to stay afloat. Please just drop this requirement. Finally, Riot caved in and said, all right, we're going to waive the requirements. So now if you field an LCS team, you don't have to field a Challenger team anymore. So you don't have to field that Academy team. 7 out of 10 of the teams that were in Challenger dropped their Academy team. Just straight up dropped it. And so that was what then caused the Player Association to say, like, hey, we're going to stage this walkout. And what's interesting also is that the Player Association is comprised of not just people who are in Challenger, but also people who are in the Premier League as well. So it's like NALCS and Challenger League players, and maybe even some collegiate, I'm not sure, then did the vote that you guys were talking about of like voting on whether or not they're going to stage this walkout. The walkout ended up passing. So enough players who are not just the Challenger players, but the actual LCS players also recognized and said, hey, this is kind of fucked up. Like, you're just completely dropping all these players because now the teams have no incentive. They're clearly literally just 7 out of 10, 70% of the league is just dropping the teams. Like, how is this going to be okay? There's not going to be any system to like come up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening then is that, you know, Player Union does their walkout. They have their list of like asks and stuff, which include things like just better communication and stuff. I think that they also asked for like some stipend and things like that. They asked for like a 300K stipend, which for context also, Riot gives like these teams that buy the NALCS stuff, they give them, it's like not exactly know what the figure is because it's supposedly a revenue share based on how the performance of the league does, but somewhere between 1.5 to $3 million. Like the teams are receiving this for each, like, I don't know if it's year or season or whatever.
I think it's year.
I think it's year too. So like they're receiving like 1.5 to $3 million, depending on how the season is doing, to run their teams for both like NALCS and Challenger. But the teams, from what I've heard, is like are just horribly spending this. This is just like classic, you know, esports problem where they're doing that. And then they're also pitching to all these like venture capital people who are investing and purchasing like even more stake into these teams and everything and selling them on like not that dissimilar from how Overwatch League stuff worked. like overselling them on a lot of like the numbers and like the return on investment and everything to all these venture capital people. So they had all this money and they just are burned through a lot of it with these team houses. And part of the problem is they're paying like a lot of these players like hundreds of thousands of dollars, but not actually making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So it's like a very complicated situation where the players did this walkout. Riot basically looked at all this and said, well, you guys put yourselves in this boat, right? Like you are first of all, the players are the Riot says like the players are getting paid too much. So, we're already shelling out like 1.5 million to 3 million every year to these teams. You're asking for even more money. You guys are just mismanaging the money. No, like screw you. So they basically give a middle finger to the player union saying like, no, you know what? You guys put yourselves in this boat. Teams can go fuck themselves. Players can go fuck themselves. You have 2 weeks. All right, we'll delay things. And if you guys still want to stand by this walkout, then we're just going to cancel in North American League of Legends. Like NALCS will just stop.
Yeah. So that is a great rundown of what's happening. And I also have another Reddit link that I'll go over. But I just really want to emphasize this is the part where it just generally an interesting idea. This is like, as far as I know, the first time that a player union has actually done anything to the point where it has actually disrupted the tournament. So they said they're going to walk out. Riot said, well, we're not going to, like, okay. And then nothing moved. And then the tournament was like 2 days away. And then Riot started saying, like, the start will be delayed. And then they also had some language that kind of insinuated that things that continue to go badly, then other bad things will happen. Like, other tournaments will not happen. And the whole of LCS might eventually drop. Of course, they didn't say that, but there was basically, veiled threats of like, well, if you're not going to do this, then what's the point? And, they got a point. If no one's going to play, what's the point? But the funniest thing is that you might have seen people tweeting about, saying like time to become a League of Legends pro, is that in order to fix to a certain degree what was happening is Riot just allowed anyone of any league to be potentially a player in LCS. So you could have seen like some random person just say like, yeah, I'm going to become a pro, because if they're bronze or whatever it is in League of Legends, they are theoretically allowed to play in the LCS as part of like the main team. So basically they opened it up to every scab possible, which I think is just, I don't even know, if anyone has any more information as to what actually has happened so far. I haven't kept up with this.
I know they're in negotiations. Like a couple journalists, actually, Mikhail Klementov, who did the the final article that came out of the Washington Post launcher, that was the deep embed into Frost Giant. He broke a lot of this, and he was in discussions with I think Philippa Ram, who is the former head manager. I forget exactly what he was at Evil Geniuses. I know he managed the Dota team and did some other things. But anyway, he's the head of the LCS, the Players Association. Okay. And they had like a big, long, further interview that was scheduled going into it, and that was canceled, I think, pretty much as that announcement came out, because they had entered into negotiation and discussion or something. But I think the big thing, and unless I missed it, you were talking about, is that double lift video that went out that kind of killed any bargaining power.
Oh, that's
that
right.
They had.
Yeah, that was what I was. That's pretty much the only thing I know about, really.
Yeah. You want to give a suggestion, Steadfast, or anyone?
No, I'm sure Beomulf. I don't know much about the whole issue, so I just saw it, and I saw that a lot of people were like, "Wow, what the fuck, man?"
He basically said he was in support of like general like union and keeping together, and he understood the problems that were at hand. Like he empathized with it, but then he basically said that he sees Riot's point of view, and he's
like, you know what, I like workers, I like as a concept, but I like money more.
Well,
it was more like, yeah, I like this idea, but no, like, if it's between this and not being able to play in Worlds, everyone's going to cave, and we're going to go play because we want to play in Worlds.
Yes, that was one of the main points, was that he said no one's actually going to keep up with this. He said what everyone's kind of thinking, to be fair, but and then he was kind of sympathetic as well. Like he tried to be fair, basically, which when you're in a super tense negotiation like this, I think, depending on what point of view you're on, you're not good. But
no one should be talking about the negotiation. No one involved in the negotiation should be talking about it right now.
Sure.
Like from a legal
But-
advice, whatever perspective, no one should be talking about it because that can harm negotiations on both sides.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But this is why it's nice that Feardragon gave us the breakdown, which did include Riot's point of view. I mean, as much as I think all of us here are basically pro-union, all for like the idea of fighting for good opportunities at the very least. There's some real problems with the way that Riot's set up, and then that's when I wanted to bring up this Reddit thread, which it is a Reddit thread, but it's a H Dragon stream according to this source, so take it with a grain of salt. But they broke down the numbers. The Reddit thread that I linked has salary change over the years. 2014, $3K a month if you won the split. 1K a month for rookies. 2020, $300,000 to $600,000 a year for A tier. 2022, $800,000 to $1.5 million year for AAT players.
Yeah,
like it's grown crazy.
Yeah.
Freaking, what was it? TSM paid $3.5 million for what was this? I think his name is Sword Art. He's a support player, and because he'd won a world championship, and like, I love the hypocrisy of these NA teams. Or like, yeah, we're gonna go and we can't afford our whatever the expenditure is to go and have a full NA LCS team. What's the word? English is hard, but we can go and I don't know that it's 3 million plus. I genuinely don't know, but like we can't afford this. Meanwhile, we're paying for this washed up player who is not competing in his home region again and is not playing well and is good for our region, sure, but like it's such a poor the allocation of money makes no sense.
Yeah. So part of the problem is that basically the way that these teams were looking at things was like they were getting the like millions from Riot, but then they were also like raising this money from venture capital and stuff and saying like, hey, you can basically like purchase these stakes into our team, which is effectively like saying purchasing like a franchise spot and stuff. So like, hey, we can raise a ton of money. And the problem is this is not like, East Coast or like, old school kind of like investment stuff. This is like very tech style kind of investment where it's about, if you don't know, there's like lots of studies and stuff where it's like, 1 in 10 businesses like succeed, like 9 out of 10 businesses tend to fail. The way that venture capitalists tend to think is they say, okay, we're going to invest in like 10 businesses. We're only expecting one of them to succeed. But we need that one in order to break even to 10x our money. We need that one investment to be 10x. So they're not going to say, all right, this team needs how much to like stay afloat and to like be sustainable. They're not looking for that. They're not looking to make a sustainable team. They're saying, okay, go big or go home and fail. If you're going to fail fast. If you want $100,000, no, we're going to give you $1 million. But now we're also setting our expectations to be 10 times what you were originally telling us. So basically all these teams just end up super over promising. And now they have all of this budget from like the money from Riot. They have the money from these venture capitalist people. And they say, all right, well, now we have the pressure that we have to basically give a massive return on investment. So what do? Well, we have to get the best players possible because now we have to win the league. We have to return our investment. So now this massive bidding war over, as ZombieGrub was saying before, like NA players who are not that dissimilar from like StarCraft. I would actually say probably even like a little bit worse off in terms of comparison, like with modern day StarCraft. NA players not really considered the best players. They're getting paid like an absurd amount because there was this bidding war where everyone is trying to basically compete. And so it's like this unsustainable model. To me, it's like, this is, I don't know. I kind of like, as I was reading more and learning more and more about this, like Devin Nash did a really great video on this. I was just kind of like, this is like a miniature Overwatch League bubble in my mind. And like, I actually think it was as much as like, as you were saying before, like pro, unions and all that stuff. I think this is a healthy bubble to burst. Like this needed to pop.
Yeah. Another reason why it got inflated so much was that apparently because North America had so much money coming in, Koreans were like, well, we're going to go to America. And then the Korean companies had to say, oh, shit, well, we need you guys to stay here. So they had this really, like artificial bidding war, I suppose. So Faker might be worth his money for all I know. I've seen him in an ad for Google or whatever it is. But most other people, though.
Yeah. And how telling is it that the region of League that has had the most problems is the one closest to Riot, and therefore the one under their most direct oversight. I mean, again, I'm not a League guy. I don't know. I turn to their broadcast sometimes. I like to listen to different casters. Like NALCS, for everything you see, is clearly dying. LEC's doing great. They're halfway around the world. LCS, LPL, I don't know. What is it? LCK, LPL, I don't know. But you get it closer to Riot, you give them more direct oversight, and that's the one that's been having the problems.
Yeah, I guess I said 3, but it really is 4. Yeah. So that's it. Fascinating. If you guys didn't know, now you kind of have the gist. Devin Nash, I think, probably very good video because he was like part of this. Like he's actually owned some of these teams and whatnot. But is there anything else we want to add? Because it is unfortunately, there is not a just direct like yay for the people or whatever. It is a bit more ambiguous and complicated. And the most interesting thing is just that it actually affected the broadcast. And it had to be delayed, and then people had to. I don't even know if are they broadcasting now. I don't think so. I don't know, but
no. A streamer went, and I don't know how his event went, but he did a show match thing. Because he bought an ACL? He bought a slot in the NACL, and he did that. But yeah, no, there hasn't been any
Disguised
LCS.
Toast, right?
Yeah,
Disguised literally buys a slot and then basically just tweeting like a week later is like, so I guess this league is dissolving.
I mean, in fairness, he did that with the VC or the VCT Academy. Yes. Whatever it is, as well, and like the immediate tweet afterwards was, "Wait, how do I make money?" So,
yeah, I thought it was a woman's team. Yeah. It was one of those, but so fascinating stuff if you guys want to look into it. But I do want to give Steadfast a chance to rant about the Twitch drama if that's what he would like to do before he has to leave. So we're just gonna move right on. If we come back to it, we come back to it. But TLDR for the Twitch drama, they released an announcement saying that they limited all basically ad space to 3% of your screen, which would directly impact solo streamers who are big enough to have such sponsors, but obviously more importantly, especially to us, impacts production tournaments because they have sponsors out the wazoo every which way we look. So then they backtracked and said that we didn't mean that. But then they snuck in a new contract that they sent to every partner that also had the same basically like language about it, as well as making sure that everyone had had to stay on Twitch. They couldn't stream elsewhere, whatever that one's called. So
and the one extra thing before Dave goes off on it is that also when they in the new contracts and everything, and also in the actual legal terms of what we agree to, they didn't change anything. So they backtracked on like the public announcement, but they haven't actually backtracked on the contractual stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
And the funniest part of that is that Twitter says that underneath, and it's okay. So imagine you're walking along on the street and you're like, wow, it sure is a nice sunny day, isn't it? And then, starts getting a little cloudy. And you're like, damn, that's all right. It's still pretty sunny. And then it gets more cloudy. And then a hurricane starts. And then Twitch comes in and fucking cuts your ad revenue. They cut the 70-30 split to 50-50. And you're like, oh man, this hurricane doesn't look so bad now. And then Twitch does more shit. And they just keep piling more shit on top of you. And it was already succinctly said. So I'm just pissed. I'm just pissed because for the first time, maybe ever, I actually, well, maybe not, I don't want to say ever because it's only been like 2 years, but I've been like pushing the Twitch shit really hard. Like I've been really working my ass off. I got partnership after 8 applications. It took a fucking long time, really busted my ass on it. And for the first time, I was like, wow, Twitch, are you just taking this away from me? Like, are you just doing this? Are you just going to make it so that this is not an option anymore? And I had always like kind of done this very safely to the point where I'm like, okay, is this viable? Like, I know this is like, it's going into it. It's a bit of a pipe dream to be a full-time streamer content creator. But I did it safely. There kept being things that made it okay for me to do it, to take the next step. And then I finally went full time in November. And now Twitch is just like, And I'm like, you okay there, Twitch? And they're like, yeah, don't worry. We just got rid of our old CEO. He was bad, though. And you're like, cool. Who's the new CEO? And they're like, oh, it's this guy. He's really in touch with things. Yeah, you're going to love him. His name's Daniel Clancy. Yeah. Cool. Oh, okay, yeah. Look, he streamed. He seems one with the people. And also, fuck you. Fuck every creator. Fuck every creator. So hard. Just kidding. It was a joke. Everyone left. And Asmongold said he's going to leave. It was a meme. We're joking. It's not really happening. It's actually still happening.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like, it sucks for the creators, and it absolutely does. But my first thought was, this kills any esport ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, if you cannot run burned-in ads, and I have no doubt that ESL and Riot Games and Blast and PGL and whatever tournament organizer I'm forgetting, they will have a deal. They will be able to go and say, yeah, I'm going to do this. This is fine. But what about Home Store Cup? What about when Alpha X was still alive? What about their, $20,000 tournament or something? They don't have a multi-million-dollar corporation behind them to force that negotiation. So yeah, we were going to get the big stuff, but it's the middle-sized stuff. There's no TO can count itself anymore. There's just
the overmind.
Yeah.
I there's not much more to say about it. It's so fucked.
Yep.
And granted, theoretically they're rolling it back and they're saying that even though the language in the new contract is as it is, that's going to be changed and that's just not updated properly, not yet. I mean, does anyone trust Twitch right now?
No.
Oh no, they've shattered the trust.
I mean, I didn't have trust beforehand, but I especially don't now.
Do you trust any live streaming service?
YouTube does a fairly good job of being a little more creator focused. It's not great.
Apparently, they have the same rule though.
They do, but
they don't enforce it.
Not even that. So the rule is that you can't have any. You can't serve something that YouTube also serves, but they don't serve as much of the same stuff, right? So yeah, burned-in ads are maybe going to be an issue, but like the lower third is not something that YouTube serves, so that's not covered under those rules. Audio ads, overlay, those like 2/3 of the things that Twitch was specifically killing, YouTube doesn't really serve as an ad, so it's not covered under that. At least that's my understanding.
But yeah, anyways, I gotta go. Thank you very much, and good luck with that. I hope you solve it. Yeah.
Steadfast.
Thanks,
Let me know if
Steadfast.
you guys decide to march on Twitch. I'm in.
Nice.
Bye, everybody.
By the way, follow him
Bye.
on Twitch.
Bye.
Yay. Yeah. It's funny to hear you, by the way, say all that, Beomulf, because if you talk to most YouTube creators, most of like the really big YouTube creators are just looking at all the Twitch stuff and just laughing and be like, all these people think that YouTube is so much better. And YouTube
interesting.
does not give a shit about most of their content creators, even like a lot of their big ones. They don't care about. It's a very, very unpersonal relationship. So
Oh yeah.
all the things that people are complaining about Twitch, YouTube, the reason why they don't get the bad press about it is because they got the bad press about it a decade ago. And it's just accepted now.
Although, I mean, I think part of the issue is Twitch has positioned themselves for years now as being creator first, being a creator first ecosystem, whatever. And YouTube has never had that reputation, like not to the same extent. It's like, well, okay, yeah, YouTube's gonna do YouTube. We can make money, we can find things, whatever. But I wonder how much of this is, and yeah, it's absolute shitty. And if it kills esports, that's gonna be really, really fucking sad, for obvious reasons. But I wonder how much of the blowback is, well, Twitch was our partner in this. We're called partners, and now clearly we're not. Like, so it's as much of kind of the breaking of expectations as it is anything else.
Gotcha.
I think that's fair. I would bring it back to the question that was originally asked, or is the reason why I was saying that, which is there any live streaming platform you trust? And I would say Kick.
No, not at all.
I was gonna say, apparently it's a cause.
Although apparently they are going to start paying creators like 18 an hour.
Yeah.
On top of 95% of sub revenue, whatever.
Creators?
Yeah,
No, you have to be a certain amount. And
Yeah,
you also have to like
equivalent partner, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And then you have to actually stream. Like they have like rules, so you can't just sleep on stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to be actively producing content was the screenshot. But also it is of course backed by a online crypto gambling service that is, massively shady. So and it does not enforce its TOS. So if you want to be a hateful idiot, you can do that on Kick.
Mm-hmm.
And they will not ban you.
The thing is,
in fact, they will ask you to join their ownership group.
The morality, the ethics of that aside, and the general kind of like, is this legit or is it not legit? Like, will I get paid? Will I not get paid? That aside, no one seems to have actually solved how to make this make money. This is a fact. Yes. So even though Kick is like, oh, time to capitalize, they will shortly find themselves in the same, if not worse, situation.
So here's the really concerning thing about Kick, why many people are also mostly skeptical of it. They are using Amazon's streaming service. They're literally using the service that is provided by Amazon. And I will actually say, like, I've done calculations on this. The amount, let's say you do a 5-hour stream for 200 viewers and you're streaming at like 1080p. Let's say the cheapest demographic, which is the North American, European groups and stuff, not like Asia or Korea. God forbid you're streaming to Korea. That dispensing video to them is actually quite expensive. Instead, I think for North America and Europe, it's like 3 cents per hour per viewer for a 1080p stream or something like that. Whereas Korea, it's like 24 cents. So let's not even get into that. But just with that, and if you say like a 5-hour stream for 200 viewers, it ends up being like around $100 something to do that stream. Like, it's unreal how expensive this stuff is. And obviously, yes. Keep in mind, guys, not just with Kick and everything, even with Twitch. Twitch is not paying that much, right? Obviously, they're selling a product so that they can make some kind of income on this. But they're not like charging like 10x what it actually costs them. They're charging like an upcharge, but they're not charging so much of an upcharge. Processing video is just goddamn expensive. The encoding stuff that Twitch is doing and everything. Twitch is also not making a profit. No,
that's what this is. This is Twitch has their corporate overlord saying you have we've been patient, but you need to make money. Like you can't do this anymore. Although again, we've talked about it, the advent of theoretically better, theoretically more efficient encodings or encoding systems could be more of a solution to this. But I mean, that's a year down the pipeline, maybe. Twitch has said they're going to get what's it called? The AMD one, the new one, in like 2024 maybe. But I don't know if that I don't know if that's a solution. Although you talk about Kick, the argument I've seen is that it doesn't matter how much money Kick costs because its entire purpose is effectively advertising for stake. So as long as they drive some people that are willing to, have their lives ruined by, shady crypto gambling, it doesn't matter how much money they lose because they will make it in spades on on crypto gambling.
Here's the problem though. And I think we all know, that's not a long-term sustainable thing, right? That's a short-term money game, which is actually, you know what? Sure, fine. All well and good. Here's the other thing that we didn't actually talk about, which Twitch also added to their contract, which this is my speculation now, right? So Twitch, what I'm about to say is not speculation. Right? Twitch added this to the new contracts, which is that anyone that's in the affiliate or partner of the monetization streamer program has to provide a consistent amount of live content, program quality live content, regularly interact and engage with viewers of your Twitch channel, and respond to live viewers of your Twitch channel via Twitch chat. That last one is especially funny, where they literally add it contractually in your new partner and affiliate contracts that you need to stream quality live content on a regular basis and engage with viewers. These are all very ambiguous things, and this is basically, in my mind, this is my speculation part. This is their catch-all to say, hey, if you switch to a different streaming platform and stop streaming on Twitch for a few weeks, we can delete your account. We now have a legal out to just get rid of you because we don't have like year-long periods anymore. That's the other thing that they changed, is that you're not on year-long periods for your contracts as a partner or anything anymore for streaming. So they can just axe you as soon as they say like, yeah, we found that you weren't providing quality content. What's quality content? It's up for us to decide because we wrote the contract, and this is like an ambiguous term that we are putting ourselves in charge of deciding. Oh, you aren't interacting with your viewers enough. You were doing like this subathon thing. Yeah, not a fan of that. We're actually just going to kill that. Oh, like it just is giving them like these massive like tools to just basically delete people from Twitch that maybe like put themselves on the wrong side of their wrath, including, again, if you switch over to Kick, this is going back to what, sorry, this is a very long winded thing, but like going back to what we were talking about with Kick, you switch over to Kick because there's a short-term gain of all these crypto things and they can make these unbelievable payouts and stuff, but it's not long-term. You try coming back to Twitch, your Twitch account may not be there anymore.
This is very interesting. I know you copy pasted this to me yesterday, and I just kind of laughed at it. But thinking more about it,
let me also send the article for you.
There you go. Thinking more about it, like I think you're absolutely right. There's now a reason to get rid of people they don't like, or just easier reason to get rid of people who are actually maybe doing something a little weird. But to me, I also hear that as an excuse to get rid of a lot of like 0 and 1 viewer streams.
Well,
people who start to dip below what they did get when they were partnered as well. I mean, basically anything as you said, like quality is very ambiguous. So, say they had a streamer who used to get 500 viewers, so they're partnered, but then they go down to 80. Or something, and they're like, well, actually your content is just not that great, and maybe it's not actually too, but whatever, besides the point. So they're just like, yeah, we're gonna get rid of you because obviously the more we don't have to let you guys stream, the more money we save.
Yeah, although in fairness, the 0-1 are not even probably affiliate, so
right, yeah, but there are so many affiliates.
That's fair.
They actually made that so accessible at some point, which they're
50 followers and like 3 CCV.
Oh God, yeah. So accessible. So that's what I first thought of. But then on top of that, the whole like you have to be engaging with your stream would actually maybe hit some of the biggest streamers.
Yeah.
Not that I think they would touch them, to be clear, unless they dicked around and threatened to go elsewhere or whatever the hell it is. But once you get past a certain point of viewers, they do not chat anymore. I mean, you can't really, exactly, but they don't do anything with their viewers anymore. They might say thank you for a subscription. Like I know some like 4,000 viewers will make sure to have like a 10-minute, but while they're waiting in the lobby or something, and they'll try and go over as many as possible, but they never meet everyone. And then you get to like 10, 20,000 viewer streams and they might not be interacting with chat at all. So that's, a very powerful tool for them to have now for all, stakes, I guess. Everyone.
It also means automated channels or rebroadcast, or like, so you've seen like the AI, whatever weird, or like actually Twitch Plays Pokemon is a very good example of interacting with chat, even if it's automated. But like all these other experiments with things is a good way for them to kill all that, because I don't know how much of a drain that is, honestly, but
ZombieGrub single-handedly also saving the DreamHack broadcast by being in chat and talking to people as she's commentating.
I know, but I don't know that counts. I think the broadcast has to talk to chat.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Although, we've had conversations that
it actually the language of it regularly interact with and engage with viewers of your Twitch channel and respond to live viewers of your Twitch channel via Twitch chat.
Oh.
Apparently, if you're not talking and responding in Twitch chat, I don't know if you're meeting the requirements.
No, does this also mean that we've talked about how maybe it doesn't make sense to have for like StarCraft to have their always on rerun thing anymore? Does that ban that? Because
here's the important note about this. They added this line and they get to enforce it whenever they want.
And
Twitch but like with bigger orgs that have contact with Twitch and things like that, that's why I think like they're probably going to be fine for the most part.
Oh yeah.
But like it's the large or like moderate or small viewers, I think. The individual kind of streamers and stuff that are those are the ones that are going to probably be most affected by this kind of stuff.
Yeah, this is Twitch giving themselves far more tools in their arsenal to get rid of people they don't want.
Yeah.
Although I don't know what the difference is, because in fairness, Twitch has been famous for not following their rules when we talk about banning people or kicking them out or whatever. But I guess this gives them power to fully delete the account or remove partnership when they previously didn't have that ability. They could have just banned you or nothing. So it's more of a middle ground, I guess.
Hmm.
In terms of like punishment, I mean, not in terms of.
This is very quite damning as you go through the link I linked in chat.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It's like I think the 2 points that we were bringing up is basically just Twitch is making more moves that a lot of people are very upset by. But the underlying tone is that not only with this contract thing, we're talking about like, hey, yeah, you could departner people that are less active and are literally just costing Twitch money because their streams cost money. This is the second point that we were making, is that is really expensive to run Twitch and all the other live stream platforms except for basically YouTube, who has so much money just from YouTube itself that they can kind of continue to play around with things and actually have some long-term game plan of, yeah, we could just have this as like a loss leader for the industry and it's fine. Everyone else is basically just struggling to figure out how do we make this financially viable. And it's like somewhat understandable. This, like, I am legitimately at the point now where I'm kind of like, I don't know what live streaming, like sustainable ecosystem for live streaming looks like 5-10 years from now.
Okay, here's a bit of conspiracy theory here, but looking at the whole, if they terminate your contract, they charge you $25 or whatever's left in your account, the lesser of the two. So for a lot of people, probably 25. Is this them just laying the groundwork to liquidate Twitch?
Yeah, that's I would say a fairly popular theory right now.
That feels a little out there, but how many partners do they have? How many affiliates do they have? Multiply that by 25. That is a great, I don't know if it's a great exit strategy, but that's a significant lump sum of cash that you can go do something else with.
I don't entirely follow. So are you saying like they liquidate the account, but it's the lower of the two? So if those people just don't have a balance, they just...
True, but okay, so tomorrow Twitch comes out and says we're shutting down Twitch, bye-bye. There are going to be a lot of people that have greater than or equal to $25 in their account waiting to get paid out. Right?
Yeah.
They go, they say, wait, you know what? We're gone. Here's our golden parachute for someone. I don't know. I don't know these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the number ends up being a little bit smaller than I think it is. But no, they people in chat saying no, they would pay it out. No. So contractually, if they cancel your contract, which closing Twitch would cancel that contract, they are entitled to $25 or whatever is remaining in your account, whichever is lesser. So from that perspective, obviously this is pipe dream and this is me, buying into the Twitch hysteria maybe a little bit, but
Yeah, I don't know about that particularly, but I have definitely seen people talk about how the more that Twitch does stuff, the more they are convinced that this is them setting up to exit. So just to cut their losses and leave.
Yeah.
So people who a year ago were like, that's a silly thought, like that's never going to happen. More Twitch stuff comes out, more and more comes out, and now they're like, I could see that happening, which is pretty scary, because when it was mostly people saying there's no way, there's got to be something done, there's got to be a market, there's got to be a way to make it profitable, no one's just going to give up on this. You're like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But then the more people are like, well,
maybe. I mean, I could definitely see that being the case. I think that if every single affiliate and every single partner had $25, they would basically be walking away with like around 50 million, which I think for a company of Amazon size is actually not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair,
I don't think that that's like a major thing, because I looked it up. There's around 2 million affiliates and around 40K partners right now. So like I see what you're saying though. Like even if like 50 million is not like a massive deal or anything for Amazon, like it is something, and it could be a setup for some liquidation strategy. That's possible.
So then that begs the question, right? If Twitch does feel like it's on the way out, and live streaming in and of itself maybe can't find the value. What does that do for esports long term? Like we've seen PGL and they have their website, and they're like, if you watch any of the most recent Counter-Strike major, they were trying to push people to watch it on PGL because they were setting up kind of their own streaming service. We had MLG TV back in the day. Is that where we go, or is this just kind of, does everything die on the understanding that live streaming can't really be made feasible?
So I think it's, in my mind, it's one of two things. One is people go to YouTube, and the reason why YouTube works is because they are set up with the infrastructure to be a loss leader for a long term and build out the extra technology that Amazon has not really, or like Twitch has not really been able to do. The second option is, the reason why it's so difficult is because the amount you have to you can monetize per person is quite low on Twitch, because Twitch ads are garbage. This has been the biggest problem, is if you're an advertiser and you're looking to advertise on Twitch, the return on investment, and also just the fact that like Twitch targeting is terrible. And this is almost like a good thing in my mind, that Twitch sucks at data gathering on people, even though like Amazon has access to all of your purchase history and all that stuff. Like the ads on Twitch are so untargeted, which I love as someone who likes privacy, but it means that the ad rates are terrible. And that is part of the reason why Twitch has such a hard time with this. And they actually, because they have such a terrible ad system, especially compared to other avenues such as Google and YouTube and everything, advertisers are willing to not only like pay more to Google, a lot of them just don't even go to Twitch. So a lot more people, you'll even notice this, especially internationally, they literally can't fill the ads that people are running. That's like another major problem. So Twitch is struggling literally just to monetize their viewers that they do have. YouTube is a much better setup, so they'll already have a better return on investment for like their ads, because they're actually set up to fill the ads much better. But also, YouTube can actually, again, like they can be the loss leader, and they can also switch over to like esport organizations doing like pay-per-view and things like that, which I think Twitch hasn't really I think they tried at certain points and it just hasn't really worked out. But like if that really needed to happen, I could see that being like a thing that we do in the future. Is like, you don't want to do it on YouTube and Twitch doesn't exist anymore. Okay, like pay-per-view, MLG.
Yeah, this is actually another conspiracy theory for YouTube's sake. YouTube apparently has done very little recently, year plus or whatever, in developing its live streaming, even though there's obviously still many complaints, like the UI still people don't like. What if they just realize that Twitch is doomed and they're like, we'll just wait it out? Like, you guys are come over here anyways.
Yeah, it's fair. Now, and Twitch also, I mean, they shot themselves in the foot. Remember, like, it used to be that you could see 480p or 1080p or like 480p or 720p or something for free, but to get 1080p, that was a sub reward, and you used to have control over that. And then Twitch was like, no.
Yeah.
Esports, or like esports in general, but also Twitch was like, we're gonna make it so everything's free. And it's like, well, if you had kept it like that, no one would have cared. But if you go back to it now, I mean, good luck.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
The development of Twitch and its, obviously its biggest presence in live streaming, it is, even though it's kind of crapping out now, is just like it was too much. It was too much. This reminds me of the Stormgate conversation, where like apparently they're going to be too nice about selling shit. So instead of taking what they should get and then making sure that they can sustain themselves, they're going to be like, oh, we don't want to charge you guys too much. It's $1 here. Like, it's pinching little cheeks. So Twitch was like, we're all in this together, and let's not really think about the future or whatever the hell we were talking about 14 years ago. And they got rid of a lot of, I guess, potential for money, because as you said, you can't go back to it now. But I remember those days. And in general, it wasn't just Twitch that was setting that as the bar. I mean, GomTV player being another excellent example. But I feel like, and this is the boomer in me talking, 15 plus years ago, we were paying for stuff that was reasonable to me, and then it went to free with nothing but ads. And I've talked about this on my stream, how it's like, I don't want everything to cost money. I don't want to go for everything to have a subscription model. But I also don't want everything to rely on ads, and then the people who rely on ads too much just being fucking annoying, and then the people who don't rely on them enough obviously fail because they can't make money. But there's got to be something in between that now they can't do. They can't go back to that. So it's I don't have any answers. I just have complaints.
Sadness and what, but yeah, like I mean, I look back and it's like I remember being so excited when I could watch StarCraft in 1080p because I was 15 years old or something, or older than that actually. But I didn't have access to a way to like buy subscriptions on Twitch, and suddenly WCS was at 1080p instead of having to pay for that. But I mean, given the choice between a sustainable ecosystem and having to watch at 720p, I don't know. I know which one I choose.
I was almost proud to pay for the MLG pass because I was able to, first of all, privileged. But seriously, like I was more than happy to pay it for the content. The problem back then, in my opinion, was more so that there was so much content that it was like, well, you really don't have to. Like I've seen Pult versus Hydra the 50th time this month, so like maybe I don't pay for MLG Pass this time. But I still thought it was very reasonable. It's a good deal. Obviously, people always kind of look at like UFC fighting, right? Which might be redundant, but and how they set up a model and all that. And you pay for shit. But so much of Twitch is you don't pay for shit.
Is there a world, or is there? I wonder if there's a market at this point. The expectation of free might be too much of a problem. Is there a world where a streaming service pops up and they just buy out a bunch of big creators, so there's a reason to go there, and just say, yeah, we're a subscription model. Like it's free to watch. You can support the creators if you want, but you do have to buy. You have to pay the service to watch it. Like $10 a month or something.
There are not for a live stream. There's video content that's like that.
True.
And like honestly, a lot of them are not doing like terribly. I don't think any of them are like making serious bank or anything, but there's a fair number of them that are actually doing pretty decently.
Yeah, but the problem is that the expectation for evergreen content is that you can pay for it sometimes. Netflix or Wondrium or whatever it is. But Twitch has kind of heard the ecosystem here where they have set the expectation that watching something live is free. Although, I mean, you want to watch any traditional sports and good luck, you're going to pay for it. So the question is, how do we get ourselves there?
Mm-hmm. And with basically all of these streaming services are now becoming television anyways again. Like literally they're labeling themselves as television, YouTube TV, Hulu TV. It feels more reasonable than ever that esports would be an added product to that. Not that I'm saying it will happen. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons it doesn't happen, but as opposed to trying to get something going with an actual television production, the broadcasting rights when it comes to like working with ESPN or something, I think that's always been way out there. But working with Hulu, that I don't know. It feels like it's in the same realm, right? So it doesn't sound totally crazy that you would one day buy Hulu TV, which comes with basketball. That's the only reason I've gotten into it, and then also comes with StarCraft. But it's totally unreasonable to expect to find it on ESPN when you're flipping through channels on your TV.
Yeah. Although we did have, there was a brief period where we did have that.
Yes, and well, Korea had it for ever. They still have it.
Well, I'm saying esports on ESPN.
Specifically on ESPN. Yes.
Yeah.
The ESPN equivalent in Korea has it still. NBC still, I think, something like that. But I feel like that is in more of an option because this is a truly concerning question. I think we just there's no way of like almost fathoming that such a market could actually just completely crash and be gone, right? Like at the end of the day, people like watching people play video games and talk. They like that personal connection. They like esports as a separate but similar market. It is a market. There's no doubt about that. The way is that the monetization is screwed up. So I can't even fathom it completely being gone. But I guess we're just going to basically go through growing pains again. We're going to be reduced back down to a baby and have to go through our teenagehood again.
I think that's been true for a while though, right? Like, or I think the entire sector has been that's been true for a while. I mean, we're in an esports winter where live streaming is running into issues. It's the same thing. Everything overgrew because venture capitals were like, or VC was like, esports, live streaming, have money. And it's like, well, okay. suddenly interest rates go up and you can't afford that anymore. So
I do wonder if it was on its way to being sustainable even without that, though.
I don't think so. I don't think they were growing to a sustainability, but all of a sudden, like they grew with the expectation of things that were not there. So I don't know that the goal was ever sustainable. And if you look at like was it Puckett was tweeting someone, he was like, yeah, the people that are in the higher ups here, most of them just they view it as a cash grab. Like they hate the sector, they hate gaming, but they view it as a cash grab, and so that's what all it ever was.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it was Puckett, but someone maybe no, it was Adam Epicella again.
It just reminds me of like Uber, where I'm like, as a company, ride sharing is just it's a sector that's become it feels like it's become critical to our societies now. It's become like an essential element where it's something people just expect won't go away, but it's still not making money.
Yeah.
And it's just got money being funneled into it. And it's maybe now you can make an argument with like self-driving and all that stuff that there is like a future where this all of these costs of these drivers goes away and then they start finally turning around and making money and stuff. But I think before a lot of that stuff looked quite as promising as it does now, I would say is it really just did remind me of a lot of the stuff that we do in esports, where it's just, yeah, we're throwing an absurd amount of venture capital money into this and we're hoping that things just continue, but we actually are realizing, or should have realized a long time ago, that the growth rate is not going linearly or exponentially with the amount of investment. It's actually like it's inverse exponentially. It's like it's leveling off as you invest more, which is a very common thing also. But like it just really feels like we continue to see money thrown in like this. I don't know. I'm also in a very cynical place where I feel like actually a lot of the conversations we've had around this whole leveling off and this bubble bursting is true, and not just like esports, but in like tech in general and stuff. And I feel like a lot of this, it's like kind of healthy that this stuff happens because we were kind of getting inflated. And it is, as much as like it really does suck that Twitch is doing all this stuff, it is actually important that Twitch is sustainable as a business. Yeah. Like that is a really critical part. If it was just going to continue on burning through even more and more money, that would also be bad because it's just going to be an even bigger rug pull later.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent equivalent. Like it's just there's actually a lot of we could also just go into the whole conversation about technology, rapidly changing things too quickly for governments to keep up, but even humans, honestly. I mean, it's certainly a unique product of our time to have things that enter into the daily necessity so quickly, yet are also so vulnerable, right? Like I don't know much about, I guess, specific history in this, so maybe someone give me an example of the past, but I would doubt it, because it just, Uber became, as you said, almost necessary, or ride shares in general became necessary. So yeah,
although
it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, if they did fall down, we would find a replacement. Like every like dissolution is an opportunity.
For ride shares, I think it's maybe an easier answer, which is just that if the taxis would fucking make an app that would actually work, it wouldn't be that bad. Like people are already accepting the bigger prices because Uber went, oh shit. So if taxis would just make an app, I feel like this would have been avoided entirely. But...
Yeah. Although, in fairness, it wasn't Uber going, oh shit. It was Uber intentionally flooding the market with things that were cheap to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the problem is, like, generally, it's like, yeah, busts have to happen, right? Our economy lives in this boomer bust cycle, but the problem is every time it busts, like, there's just so much more, not dissolution, like concentration of wealth, right? So live streaming fails, suddenly there's only one service, and they can do whatever the hell they want, and they break things down. Housing market bursts, and suddenly we have BlackRock, and they are buying up literally all the housing in the States, and you can't buy a house anymore. Well, you can't buy it, and housing prices go up the wazoo because of 08. Anyway, you get the point. So, like, it needs to happen, but at the flip side, it also is really bad that it's happening.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. Wouldn't it be great if instead of doing unsustainable get rich quick shit in esports and in tech and in just in general, we did long-term sustainable growth building, and then our busts are a lot smaller. Wouldn't that be a novel concept? Like businesses used to be? Oh god.
Oh yeah, it's like what was it? Was it the 20s, I think, that we started to see that like growth first investing mentality? Like it used to be that
The 2020s or 1920s?
1920s.
Okay,
1920s.
gotcha.
If I say the 20s, do people think the 2020s?
I think you have to now consider it.
I don't know. If I say the 10s, if I say the
just
teens,
say the roaring 20s.
When someone talks about music that came out in the 2010s, can you not just say 10s?
I've never heard someone say 10s.
But you could.
The 10s just sound awkward.
Because back in 1922, did someone go, the 10s just sound so fucking weird? They probably did,
decade.
right?
Last decade.
Yeah.
Okay. But eventually they got around to saying the 10s.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, this movement towards like growth first investing rather than like long-term sustainable investing was like a actual thing. Like there was a shift in investing approaches. I think it was like the 20s or the 30s. Maybe it was a post-depression thing. I don't remember. But yeah, thank you. Cause of many many problems.
Yeah.
And part of the problem now is that, especially in like the current day and age with technology and stuff, the amount it costs to start a business or to do a lot of this stuff is so low. And to bring this back to like what we were actually talking about of like esports and all that stuff, because it's not just about like tech and everything, even though I know we're venting about that as well, as like the cost of doing a lot of this stuff to like get started with live streaming, get started with like business, all of this stuff is very low. The cost it takes to start a tournament organization and to pull in like big sponsors and to get venture capital money, it's not actually like, you don't need a massive business to do this stuff like you maybe did a long time ago. So you start to see basically like this different formula where in esports, in gaming, and a lot of the stuff, there's just money being thrown around with the expectation that 9 out of 10 of them are just going to fail. But now that one that succeeds has to succeed big. It can't just be okay. It has to succeed massively. The only other option right now to do a lot of this stuff is to basically fund yourself or to have like a business model that is immediately sustainable. But nobody wants to do those anymore because that's not going to make you big money.
Yeah.
It's like the whole, I saw, oh man, where was the interview somewhere? But someone was like, someone had started a company and they were like, and someone was asking like how they were going to grow. And they're like, well, we're paying our employees well. We're making money. We are doing like, we're not running into issues, blah, blah, blah. Why do we need to? You know?
Oh,
and that is like, we don't need to have 10% year over year growth. Like no growth is sustainable. Like 0% growth is a sustainable company that just sits there and does their thing. And that should be okay. But it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this day and age.
And in general, just kind of like, it reminds me of the small business problem as well, right? Like, you can't even make a small business without just being afraid that, well, I mean, obviously Walmart was a big discussion when that first came out. And whenever Walmart would move in, every small business would go out of business. Mm-hmm. And then people started to fight back, but it never really got displaced. Like, it never really fixed itself. It just got more worse, I guess.
Yeah, they priced them out.
Yeah. So, so you just have nothing but people with big money ambitions who have big money doing the gambling that you're talking about. So
I'm hearing just bring back like the root of all evil here is not esports. It's not lack of monetization on Twitch. It's bring back the Sherman Antitrust Act.
I'd be probably. We could just pinpoint something down as one thing, right? I always love that. When did the time traveler go wrong? Was it when they avoided saving JFK? Was it when they didn't stop the Twin Towers?
If MaxPax had just played in Jonkoping, then none of this would have happened, okay?
Exactly. We're going to look back on this moment 10 years from now and be like, that's it. That's the middle of the web.
Yeah.
Before we get too much into big concepts. It's I forget where this even came off of. Twitch bad, that's what it is. That's the topic name. Twitch not so good. and
Yeah.
no one else so good. But, you know,
ZombieGrub, I don't know. I was just watching this talk show you were doing, and it didn't feel like you were providing a consistent amount of live program quality live content, especially with that last remark about Twitch being bad. So we're going to have to shut down your stream.
I am waiting for that, of course. Be like, yeah, we saw that you just said Twitch bad for like an hour on your show. Like, can you maybe not? We're just gonna.
You're not.
Honestly,
Here's your
like
warning.
the whole quality thing is kind of concerning. I don't consider myself a particularly good streamer, to be honest. When I think of a great streamer, I think of someone who literally makes a show every single day, which is fucking insane, and they're definitely burning themselves out. But they literally like they write like almost a plot, storyboarding to a certain degree. They have backups on backups because obviously it's live, but they really go all out. And those people could still be told they don't have good quality. But then there's me, who's like kind of okay with talking with chat and having stream quality be all right and whatnot. So it's like it's fine, but it's not the best. And there's people worse than me, and I'm like, you guys should be screwed. Probably you're worse than me.
Yeah.
And now they could be. Now they actually could be.
I think there's two things I have to say on it. One is that I wouldn't worry because this is literally just their catch-all. This is like you did something and you didn't break the rules. So Let's make a rule that we know we can just say you broke. That's what this rule is to me. The second thing is, if they were to actually do this for the reason of actually enforcing like a quality thing, I would go back to their overall underlying intent behind most of their decisions at the moment, which is monetization and profitability. So I would say it has a lot more to do with, is your stream quality enough that it's making enough money to pay for itself and maybe make a bit more?
But does any stream?
Yeah. I think in StarCraft, we actually have a much higher sub to viewer ratio than a lot of other games.
Not casters.
No, not commentators. Commentators get wrecked, but
yeah.
But that's if you're casting games. Well, if you're a personality and you're streaming, you're like own gameplay and stuff, I think it's actually a good bit higher.
So to the best of my knowledge, and this may be out of date. The number I heard quoted was, I don't know, a year ago. To the best of my knowledge, the average Twitch channel has about somewhere between 2 and 3 times as many subs as they have average concurrent viewers, right? ZombieGrub may have that. Like, what are you at? Like 350-ish ZG like subs, I think I saw. And what do you get? Like 300-400 views if you're casting, less if you're doing other stuff. That's 1 times. That's 1x or less. That's 1 to 1.5 times as much. So that, again, my numbers may be out of date. I don't know.
No, yeah. So
that's interesting.
European Open Cup 400 probably is where unless I get like a good match and no one else does it. And then for my more casual day-to-day stuff, it's like 150. And for JRPGs, it's like 80.
I'm more saying that my numbers of like 3x CCV to sub count, that may be no longer correct, and that may be incorrect. Yeah,
I used to think that StarCraft had a pretty good, low viewership but high like monetary whatever thing going on, but I'm not so sure anymore. I also thought that was the case for fighting game streamers, but I tuned into Mewtwo King. He's not doing so hot.
Yeah, I think Smash had such I think it used to be true a long time ago, but the viewership actually grew insanely in like Smash, for example, and the subs didn't quite follow with that.
Yeah. And also, I mean, look at now versus a couple years ago. I mean, who can afford to buy Twitch subs now? Like, obviously that's generalization, but we're going super doomer here, but with inflation as it is and everything else, it's like, well, yeah, Twitch sub. I'm honestly surprised the cost of Twitch subs hasn't increased. Like with everything else.
Depends on where you are, though, right? They've made
It has increased in some places.
Yeah, they once again, because they did that before. I remember talking about when we were in a Sweden event once, and then they did it again recently, but I forget what it was recently. I saw like Loco talking about it.
Oh, Twitch Turbo. Twitch Turbo.
Yeah, Twitch Turbo increased.
Yeah, well, no,
but they've also regionalized the sub costs.
2 years ago they did that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I should say I'm surprised that It's been $5 in the US for how long?
Yeah, I thought that's what you meant. Yeah, that
Yeah.
they didn't make it 10 or whatever. But of course they have the tiers, so there's that.
Yeah, but no one's gonna like.
Not
how
many
many
people do
I
it.
have one tier 3 sub on my channel right now. I think like no one buys that.
I have 3 tier 3s. I feel super
Wow.
special. I'm
High
so
roller.
special. I am high
you also
roller,
have, like,
man.
No. But ZG, you should have 10 because you have about an order of magnitude of the subs I have because I haven't really streamed much recently, and therefore you should have an order magnitude more tier 3 subs. So actually, get on my level.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got me there, man. I don't. No, but I know like Nathaniel talks quite a bit about this, and he's absolutely correct. But the whole market is just it. It's not. It's a time for belt buckling or whatever it is. It's not the time for belt buckling's not the right phrase. Tightening the belt. There we go. It's not a time for frivolous spending. I got there eventually. I'm fine.
There we go.
I speak for a living, but It has been felt, and it doesn't help that we kind of almost got artificially inflated for a couple of years because of COVID. So, I mean, it might feel a little less stingy if this was an immediate 2019 to 2020 thing, but it was like 2019, and then woo, and then now it's like.
Yeah, everyone had money during COVID. Well, not everyone, but like.
Well, they had the attention to give at least, right? Yeah. So viewership was very, very good. I mean, the first week of regionals was actually. I was gobsmacked. I was like, "What the fuck is all these people doing here?" It's like 25,000.
Imagine if we'd had better formats and kept that momentum. Anyway,
they didn't have enough time at any given point, Beomulf, even during the 6-month off season.
Well, yeah, it's just too hard, taking any of the anyway. But yeah, like American credit card debt dropped significantly for the first time in ever, and now we're back on the curve. So. Excellent. Love it.
Nailed it. I was just waiting for everyone to get their student loans covered or $20,000, whatever it is.
Well, that's actually going back. Like it was canceled and then it was vetoed. The cancellation was vetoed.
But the Supreme Court still has to rule on some issues with it, don't
that's
they?
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's going back to the Supreme Court and it's no longer a congressional thing.
There we go. Politics. Anyways, the point is I was expecting all of you to give me your $20,000 and I'm still expecting that. Thank you.
Please.
I expect everyone in the chat has student loans, apparently. Real talk, though. It's a difficult time. But I saw someone say, like, why would I spend money on people who aren't happy anymore? I don't know. I feel like most people are still doing a pretty good job of keeping up an appearance, in my opinion, which is a very different subject. But
I think that argument's more like, why would I support Twitch with my money if it's not making creators happy? Like, why would I sub to Twitch versus something else?
Which is pretty difficult.
How I read that.
I baited it tier 3. Thanks for let's have it.
Well done.
Yeah!
Well done.
Thank you. But wait, shit. Before that happened, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, that Twitch is doing so poorly. But that's like the whole that's so complicated. That's like when people say I don't tip because I don't think tipping is necessary, and you're like, what? Okay, but you're screwing over the waiter. You're not pointing the finger to the man. Like, you just make sure that I can't live off of this job, which you enjoy me doing. And Twitch does not keep count of your rebellious nature. They don't care.
Have you considered subbing to ZombieGrub's Patreon instead?
I only use my Patreon if I tried to get it back down to monthly, actually, and they refused.
I was trying to scrub through it and see something that I could shout out. Have you considered just donating to ZombieGrub instead? There we go.
No.
There we go.
You guys,
the donate link.
The other guys here. I at least get the money from the ads played today. So
yeah.
Beomulf, feardragon, and Steadfast deserve so much more.
Hey, no. Well, Steadfast did sub, so there we go. I saw that at the very start. I was sad that my sub hasn't rolled over, so I can't like get the shout out from ZombieGrub live as we're doing on it. But
I only shouted out the tier 3 today so far.
That's fair. Oh well.
That's usually because I actually do not say anything, but I thought that would be special.
Well, now you legally have
discussion.
So.
Shit. Oh, thank you guys. I'm sorry. Thank you. I don't. Do we have anything else to talk about? Reddit's going dark.
To answer that last question, why would you donate to streamers that are like clearly unhappy? So anyways, to summarize, MaxPax ruining the ESL circuit, Jonkoping, we all hate the format and everything about it. Twitch probably gonna die in a couple of years. Tech industry also gonna die. Generally, everything's gonna go terribly. Student loans are probably coming back. So yeah.
So feardragon, how are you going to use the skills that you've learned as a StarCraft caster and player to survive when you're living in a hut down by the river? How does that make you better to survive?
I mean, I picked up 0 skill sets casting StarCraft or being a software developer.
We good talkers.
Oh yeah, and League of Legends, LCS, like imploding and stuff. Yeah, esports is dying.
Here's the thing:
we had a very, very happy episode. I just want to say.
So I've managed to avoid getting into like the really like salty kind of like I can't think of the right word right now. I've tried to avoid going into just like, like I hate it because I definitely went through that during COVID. I mean, being the one that had to be like everything's fine while everyone was having like a social panic attack. It was awesome. But the way I've done it this time around is I just lean into it, right? I'm just like, yeah, what fucking sucks. Let's all have orgies when the world ends.
ZombieGrub, you're talking to a bunch of a bunch of video game nerds. That's not possible.
What is the sex?
Well, it's between 5 and 7.
Okay. Secret to sex is 5 to 7.
No,
Wasn't the meme 2 to 5?
No. Sex is 6 in Latin.
Oh my
sex
god.
Is sex.
I would have preferred the meme.
I'm sorry.
We
2 to 5 wild hogs.
I like that. Wait, Drolarius put an asterisk in A, but didn't censor orgy.
Oh, I love it. We must sponsor, like we must censor the gamer word.
What do you do, like vocally for that? You go gimmer.
Gimmer.
Join me for the gimmer orgy.
Wait. Gummer. I don't actually know if the bleep's coming through. I tried. Never mind.
It did. I've never used the bleep. I always forget. It's too bad because it actually does add some comedic effects. I just forget.
Yeah, Anywho, I think we're all, at least ZombieGrub, are you going to be streaming Sunday?
I am, yeah. I think we're all going to be. We didn't really touch on Stormgate. Obviously, there is the video that I made and other people made talking about that we did. Yeah, I'm safe to say this. That we did attend a summit. Then we'll be all co-streaming, or I don't know if feardragon is, but.
I don't stream anymore.
There you go. So he won't be. But I think the idea is that 3 out of 4 of us are going to be actually co-streaming it. And then we might do a talk afterwards because then everything will be public. So.
Mm-hmm. And some sort of like impromptu something. I don't know if we want to call it this, but yeah.
Something like that. Because there isn't much to talk about right now. It's just, it's all vague. So.
Yeah, if you want coverage of what's been released, I have a video, ZombieGrub has a video, I have an article, Pig has a video, like everyone's got a video, but I'm excited for Sunday. I mean, I'm excited for Sunday. It's nice. It's gonna be nice to have it all in the open at the very least.
Yeah. I look forward to tiptoeing. Anyways.
Through the tulips.
Yes. So in the Sunday 2 p.m. Mountain Time. I don't actually know.
It's
when
4 p.m. Eastern, so yes. Sunday. Okay. There we go.
Yay! I'm getting better at the time conversions. So, I guess we'll end with, does anyone have any legitimate questions? And if you don't...
That is a question for Twitch chat.
I mean, isn't that a question for Twitch's most beloved feature where we can pull people onto the call from Twitch chat? What is it?
Twitch only if you use Chrome.
You made this joke last time. Boo.
I am so sad. Like, that's something I would legitimately use. But it's only on Chrome and absolutely not.
Really?
Yeah. It is it doesn't work on Firefox.
That's actually incredible for how much they've put into that feature.
It has been pending on non-Chromium for I think a year now. Where whatever this we're exploring this in the future and it still doesn't work. And I'm like, I would legit like for non 2-minute delayed broadcasts, if I'm casting replays, I would legit say, yeah, you know what? Donate, we'll pull you right in. Here, cast a game with me or something. But it has to work.
Yeah. So first of all, PBR Sponsored asks who would win a fight between Ravi and Too Many Horses. I gotta go with the too
horses.
many horses.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Half a mini horse, and
Horses
that
are-
mini horse still wins.
Legit.
Yeah. Also, I'm just a pathetic fighter, so I don't think I win versus many things.
I can't imagine you trying to hit a horse. Like, even if it was coming
Yeah.
after you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Isn't a mini horse a pony? Like, I don't think I'd win versus one pony.
No, it's an actual
Well,
mini horse.
Yeah.
Oh.
A
It's
pony
little
is technically.
Sebastian.
Oh yeah.
Well,
A
he
pony is
died,
technically
so
anything
maybe I
below
stand a
14 and a half hands.
But an actual question, which I think is nice to end or somewhat end on, is a positive thing about esports, Twitch, etc. And I think there's tons of positives. I mean, obviously, being able to do the job that we've done, I think all of us have been pretty appreciative of that. Not many people get the opportunities that we do, and the friends we made along the way.
Is the question, can you name a positive thing about esports?
What is a positive thing about esports and Twitch?
Oh, okay.
I mean, esports is great. The community, everything else, yeah, it's fantastic. It's just, it's a shame that Twitch is. I think, has Twitch had a good idea in the last several years? It feels like everything they try just doesn't work.
The last good idea was Amazon Prime.
Yeah, Amazon
It's
Prime
almost
is
like they were bought out in 2014 by Amazon, and then most of their team had 4-year vesting cycles with their Amazon stock. And in 2018, they all left.
Yeah, you know.
Anyways, my positive thing about esports is, in fact, the community. And I think it's something I always like saying is, I don't think there's many people who can basically say that they have friends or like people that they know and would feel very comfortable like hanging out with or something, or grabbing a drink with in like 40, 50 different countries around the world and stuff. I think it's actually pretty cool how it transcends a lot of boundaries in a way that even like sports doesn't oftentimes do, just because it is very virtual and it is very possible to like transcend those boundaries to online play and everything. So I think that's something I really like about it.
Hard agree.
Mhm.
Yeah. So although this is off topic, I'm sorry, but with all the Twitch news, I saw some people saying that actually it was going to be Discord that was going to be the live streaming platform in the future. So I just want to point. I just want to drop that bomb on there because it sounds so silly to me that it's just kind of funny. But yeah, no, it's the community, and in general, gamers are awesome people. So meeting them all over the place is pretty great.
There's some cool people for sure.
Yeah.
The Discord thing is interesting because I actually think I thought about that a long time ago when they were working on their shop and stuff, and I'm like, they actually have a pretty decent streaming platform and stuff.
Yeah.
And they have like a very large demographic of people. It would be very interesting if they could improve the discoverability of things.
Mm-hmm.
That could also bake more into servers. They have monetization options and stuff for servers now. I do think Discord has an interesting opportunity for that. I just don't know if they're technically set up to dive into that problem on
You can
scale.
stream an AV1. There is that on Discord.
Yeah,
And-
I don't know about
ahead.
Discord, but kind of in the same vein, someone asked, do you think YouTube would be the new streaming platform eventually?
If Twitch died, yes. I think it would be.
Yeah, 100%.
If Twitch announced they're shutting down tomorrow, I think tomorrow and 1 minute from now, YouTube would be the new streaming platform.
Yeah.
I mean,
Problem is
do you think it will kind of level out though? Like people will leave Twitch, join YouTube, but Twitch won't actually kind of like really die, and then YouTube will be seen as the dominant.
So what I think there's two worlds, and I'm not sure which one happens. One is Twitch actually like liquidates, or Amazon liquidates Twitch, which I think is less likely. I think what is more likely is Twitch starts putting in more and more aggressive ways to monetize or cut down on costs. I think that one is the more likely one. So it's not that Twitch actually disappears. It's more that Twitch, I think, becomes a less desirable place to stream, and enough people slowly start migrating over to other places.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Yeah, me too. I mean, honestly, after the most recent contract thing, because I discussed this last time there was really controversial Twitch news. Like, moving over to YouTube is really not a bad idea for me. Like, I do think I would take a hit to my income, but since my income is very much not tied to Twitch anyways, like, if I was only working on Twitch, I would not be making even minimum wage. So there's, like, no downside, really, and there's the chance that I avoid more shit with Twitch and maybe work with the whole like YouTube video, right? And actually making YouTube popular.
Yeah, the question is like so the problem I see here in part is like esports in particular, more than anything else, people expect to go to Twitch, right?
Yeah.
And I think specifically StarCraft, for what we do as casters, people are going to go to Twitch. They're not even going to think about looking to go to YouTube. Whereas, the kind of stuff that Hearthstone does or something, okay, yeah, that's fine. So then it begs the question, is kind of the corollary here. Does it make sense to just say, wait for, say, Stormgate, if Stormgate gets big and whatever, like wait for a new game to pop up? And that's when you make the transition, because then you can kind of set the expectation versus now. I mean, we're 13 years into StarCraft. The expectation's already been set.
I think the problem is, even with Stormgate and stuff, the missing component for YouTube to succeed for esports, I think, is discoverability is really lacking for live streams specifically.
Yeah, massively.
And it's even the features they do have are just not known or utilized by people.
Wait, do you say YouTube or Twitch has problems with this?
YouTube.
For live streaming.
YouTube has discoverability for videos.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube also does suggest live streams. But let's say I wanted to go see if a StarCraft tournament was happening on YouTube. How would I find let's say Stormgate. I want to go watch some of the Stormgate streams. Does anyone here actually know, like, concretely, without having to like look it up and play around and try and figure stuff out for a little bit, how to actually find all of these streams for a particular category? Like, there is actually a way to do this. I've seen this.
Yeah,
but
you have
like,
to Google it though. Like
people aren't
to it from the
aware
site
of
is
it.
almost impossible. Yeah.
It's super difficult to find. I think a lot of people would just basically end up searching like Stormgate esports or stream or something, and they'd probably also just find a lot of videos instead of live stream. It's just like, I think that's like the one thing I think YouTube, if they really want to capitalize on like people moving over from Twitch and stuff, if they just either created a better UI for that so that the discoverability of like their searching for live streams was easier to find, or they just improve it and like increase. I mean, they have to increase the discoverability of like that feature at least.
I agree.
Yeah, they just need a directory. Like, hey, like there needs to be a YouTube streaming site. It just says, hey, here are the categories, go.
Yeah, I mean, Twitch has an esports category, which is actually useful.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, go ahead.
They do actually. Like, if you go to youtube.com/gaming, like they do have game categories and stuff.
Oh yeah, but I don't know how to get them.
I know. Yeah.
I've never tried.
It needs to be directly linked to the.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, the discoverability of that has to be made more prominent in some way in order. But I think if they do that, I actually think they have a decent shot at like capturing a lot of.
It's interesting because I think you're absolutely right when it comes to like large scale events, and otherwise, it's most of the advice is build up a YouTube so that you can direct people to your Twitch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels then that it would just make sense that you would do that and then direct people to your YouTube. So for like solo streamers, shall we call them, it feels much better. But you're right. No doubt people go to Twitch to find esports. And I think finding that general category is a lot easier. And obviously it's very likely that the top viewership is going to be the tournament you wanted to watch. Yeah. Which I'm not sure if that happens with YouTube. I don't know.
I mean, I just took a look at it. Counter-Strike is the top category right now, and Blast is running their spring premiere or whatever it is. Tim the Tatman is the top watcher, and he's opening cases or something. I don't know. But sorry,
I didn't realize he'd be the top.
Yeah, he's got 11,000. Oh, that's interesting because it's sorted by most viewers in region. So despite Blast having 14K and Tim only having 11, he's listed as top.
I was gonna say I watched that earlier. It was at 88K. It's 43K now.
Well, I'm looking at Blast is 15K.
Wait, we looking at YouTube?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't even know it was on YouTube.
Yeah, and like in general, I really prefer watching YouTube live streams to Twitch. From like esports, not if I say want to watch feardragon or ZombieGrub or something, but from watching esports, I think the value proposition is so much better, right? I don't care about chat if I'm watching esports, like not at all. But the ability, I can rewind. They do 4K more often. Like the value proposition to watch an esports event on Twitch or on YouTube is so much better, but the ability to like look for it and to train the average viewer about where to look and how to understand is not there in the UX. I guess is the big problem at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well,
No one cares about me either.
unfortunately,
Jeez.
YouTube isn't doing anything to really fix it.
Yeah. Right.
So like it feels like if YouTube and Twitch married, it'd be perfect.
Oh yeah.
But they don't. So, and for some reason, they haven't been able to like steal from each other either. Like, is
Imagine
it
a
that
world-
hard for YouTube to be like, all right, people don't like our emotes in our chat. Could we just kind of like make it look like Twitch?
Yeah.
Wink.
Imagine a world where YouTube bought it or where Google bought out Twitch, but unfortunately, I mean that would be antitrust, and I think it should
Well,
be.
yeah.
It wouldn't get. Well, actually, they would have bought that out 10 years ago, and that was a much weaker U.S. antitrust system than it even is now, which is not great. So, they could have paid the right people off, and I think the merger would have gone through regardless.
Perhaps. But
I think it's tough for YouTube to just adopt a lot of the Twitch stuff, because I think Twitch is still, even though there's a lot of stuff outside of gaming on Twitch now, I think it has still got a very distinct culture that is not actually for everyone.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
think YouTube hits a much wider audience, and there are people who do live streams on YouTube that are not like at all anywhere close to what I would say being the kind of people who'd want to be part of Twitch ecosystem culture and a lot of the stuff that goes on there. Like, I don't know that everyone's live streams like on YouTube, for example, would really enjoy all the kind of emotes and things that are available on Twitch and like that same kind of system. And like, I don't know. I do understand why YouTube is maybe a little bit slow to adopt stuff, because they have a lot more users to think about how they get impacted and how do they fit all of these features into every one of those categories.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Well, any other questions? I think we kind of covered it, right? It was
Who's casting Jonkoping?
Yeah, who's casting it?
Good question.
I mean, it's so funny that my screen capture just got that slowly asking. Well, Nathanias is the one who asked who's casting, and then slowly said, what did she say? Great first match for a truly terrible format.
Yeah,
Nice
the
tweet.
good news is the casters will be in Jonkoping. So there's that.
Will we though? No, I'm just kidding. We
I mean, unless ESL's breaking their word from the start of the year in their announcement, which is always possible.
I don't know if I can trust myself to find my way there, honestly.
That's fair. What did you say? 4-hour train ride?
Yeah. Actually, I'm very good at directions, but there's some other people on the team though.
Well, I guess they're just gonna have to hire me to guide them along to make sure that we can get there.
That's
my ticket in.
We find Roddy in the Copenhagen club.
I mean, at least Roddy is like, at least he is European, and I feel like he's gonna have a little bit of home turf advantage on that. If you
totally fine.
if this was
Yeah.
somewhere else, I do think there'd be a few people I'd be like, oh no, are you gonna get there if you have to take like 4 hours of public transit?
What is the worst spot we could drop people in to try to do that? Would it be like Southeast Asia or something? Just because like no one has any experience
North
there?
Korea.
Oh well, okay. Of countries that where you're not going to get arrested for showing up.
I mean, like depends on like what was the
Saudi
question?
Arabia.
Like what was the question?
like okay, so you got 4 hours of public transit, right?
Okay.
You're
to
in
get
a
from A to
situation.
B.
Yeah, like you have this airport and it's not super close to the venue.
Okay. I was gonna say because North Korea, you could get somewhere really quickly. Just wait for someone to arrest you.
Yeah, but then, okay.
But that might
Where
be
you're
the
not going to
point.
get arrested.
Okay. I don't know. I personally I think I would have a lot of trouble anywhere in South America.
That's fair.
Yeah.
China.
I think I could get
the
around.
right parts of China. I think it'd be very difficult.
I mean, there's also the right parts of like Detroit that would also be very difficult. So
Yeah.
For different
I don't
reasons.
even mean like necessarily like super ghetto or anything. I literally just mean like there are some parts, like if we're talking about things like Jonkoping where 4 hours of public transit to like a random thing. Yeah, there are
true.
some out there parts of China that are very difficult to get to if you don't know what you're doing.
yeah,
Or
whereas
like,
like the mass land that is Russia, and you like don't go to
although, in fairness, with Russia, like 85% of the population is in Europe, is like super close.
yeah.
So
I'm trying to think if you don't go to the fucking major city. I can't think of it now.
but like Probably maybe one of like the atolls in Southeast Asia too, where you have to do it like multiple islands.
Oh,
You get
I
there?
also have a lot of trouble in Africa. No, definitely Africa. I'm choosing Africa.
But only if you bless the rains.
The point is, there's a lot of places that can apparently confuse us. Moscow, thank you. That's
Okay.
what I was trying to think of. Points over, anyways. But there are a lot of places that would be difficult. Usually, we go to a convention center that is conveniently located to an airport because that's what they would do as a town agreement. Be like, well, where should we put the place where everyone's going to be? Next to the airport? Oh, that sounds like a good idea. But then sometimes we don't. And I didn't actually know that. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I never went to the Jonkoping.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, okay, I know that I didn't go to Jonkoping either, but I do remember, like, there was one year, which I think was 2018. Jonkoping was 2017, right?
I think
WCS
so.
Jonkoping. I could be wrong about this, but I remember 2018 Leipzig was like the venue that were like, this was the like lowest key, kind of like lowest energy event of the year was Leipzig.
Yeah.
I thought Jonkoping was also that for 2017. So I'm
Yes.
really hoping people who show up bring energy, because that is a little bit of a fear that I have.
Although actually, to the previous question, we have our obvious answer. It's Krefeld.
Krefeld is the hardest to get to?
Yes. Obviously. I don't know. I hear the complaints there, ZG.
It's more difficult, that's true. But I think what doesn't help is that the funny thing is that Leipzig is like the German audience. I'm sorry, guys, you're not the best. Like, I don't know, insulting plenty of people. Like, the third most popular audience for my channel is German people.
Also, when we say German audience, it is different from saying Homestar Cup audience, because that is a very different kind of audience.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's a good point. It's a good point. But no, like it kind of is like I guess kind of been a thing. But then Leipzig was just like we weren't even near the town. So the weird thing is it's really easy to find because the only fucking building in like 50 miles is the convention center because it's so boring and so stupid. So it'd be easy to find, but it's also just like no one has fun going there. I think Jonkoping is like the same thing, but I think it's a little bit better to my understanding. It's actually a lakefront. So yeah, it's going to be in the summer as opposed to very dreary, sad winter that Leipzig is in. Leipzig also was like the first event in 4 that would actually impact, which I don't think helped, but I would actually compare it to Valencia because Valencia was theoretically a nice place to visit. Fairly central as far as general Europe. I mean, I didn't have trouble going to the airport and going to Valencia. And it was nice weather and it's supposed to be like happy people, but it was sad. And it was only one of 2 dream hacks, so it had a lot of importance in terms of points. And it was still super sad. So
it was also like, it was a full crowd. It's just the energy was just really low.
I mean, even Katowice, right? Okay, we had the Oliveira one and everyone went crazy, but like for the most part, that crowd was not good. Like it was quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe I'm just because the 2 events I've been to were Atlanta and Red Bull Battlegrounds DC in 2014, which had crazy crowds. But I don't know.
Yeah.
How do we make crowds better?
No, that's actually a
2
legitimate
events
question.
in North America.
It's fair.
Fair. That's the secret.
Although, like, I look at it because look at like Counter-Strike crowds in Europe, they're crazy, but they buy into that like the football hooligan culture, and you know, I would argue that for the most part, you know, maybe StarCraft fans are a little too old for that to have a lot of those people. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
like it's not just a European problem; it is a European StarCraft fan. I don't want to say problem because that's not fair, but.
I think France had like a pretty lit
crazy crowd. Yeah.
So I can't even say it's all of Europe. I think there's just like some, this has always been my guess, is just there's some cultural parts of Europe that people are just a little bit more reserved. Like, I don't know. I try and think of what an event in like Finland and stuff would be like, and I'm like, oh my God, an audience of Cyrils. Like, I'm sure that's not entirely accurate. I'm sure there's actually a lot of people who are very passionate and very energetic and stuff, but like I have to imagine there's some cultural stuff that also plays a part.
Imagine an entire crowd saying mutas.
yelling it, screaming it. Utas!
I need it. No, I think you're right. I actually discussed this yesterday on my stream, and someone brought up the general kind of like Scandic. What is it?
Scandinavian standoffishness.
Thank you. Freaking fly. That it kind of like, apparently they all read a book, all right? And someone's got to link it back at me. But because I was saying how Swedish people always feel like they're kind of proper. Like, I wouldn't say uptight, but proper. So that might also impact why Jonkoping wasn't very, very fun, because they're kind of, to a degree, reserved. So I think you're right, is what I'm saying. It's an even easier comparison, because we've never had one in Finland. We did, but it was a Asus ROG, right?
Yeah.
Not really a crowd. So
the awkward one where they brought in Roddy originally to just host and not to cast. Or was it Wardy? They brought in, it was like Wardy
makes somewhat
Roddy,
of sense.
and Demuslim, and one of them was brought in to only host. And it was just going to be two of them casting the whole weekend.
That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
That is funny. Yeah, I think there's ways to make crowds better, but this is actually a problem in all these sports. Not necessarily about the hype, but even then, yes. Because I'm thinking of CS:GO. They've had a lot of problems with their crowds.
That's fair, yeah. With the whole like only cheering for the hometown crowd.
Yeah, and leaving if they don't make it.
Yeah.
Or staying outside the venue to watch the favorite streamer.
Although that is like, that's true of a lot of things. All that, like Chinese Dota fans, when the TI was in Shanghai, when the Chinese team were out, they were gone. It feels like, wow, this is going to sound like American exceptionalism, but it feels like for the most part, it's the North American crowds that do kind of tend to support regardless of who's in. They just want good games. Maybe that's recency bias. Maybe that's my own bias showing up. I don't know. But
America.
I have a lot of criticisms for Overwatch League, but my God, whenever I did actually go for one of those Overwatch League broadcasts when we were in Burbank and stuff for Challenger, there's a lot of energy in that crowd. It made me very aware of what even like a smaller crowd and stuff. Like that was not as large as like one of the really large DreamHack crowds or something that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
But it was still like, it had a very strong energy behind it. I do think NA crowds hit different.
I'm sure they're really fun, but those freaking Overwatch crowds were basically the crowd equivalent of casters who scream too often. If everything's hype, nothing is hype. Like, the thing that happened 5 minutes ago apparently did not impact the thing that just happened now, but everyone's screaming.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
What was it?
Americans are louder. I mean, I think that's actually contributing. I mean, I think we've talked to I think Roddy has like talked about like tipping culture, for instance, and why a lot of the time American timed broadcasts make more money but have less viewers. And I think that just makes sense to me. Like, we're very accustomed to tipping. And then also apparently there's a little bit more, it's weird, but I don't know if it's untrue, that Americans are kind of generally more inclined to spend money. That was an interesting hypothesis of his. But I am only American, so I can't say very much more about it. But that means that they're much more likely to actually go from West Coast to East Coast from something they really, really like. Where to get someone from France to go to Spain apparently is like a real problem. They just take the train. It's like 80 euros and like a hotel. It's like 2 hours. Like, oh my God. And here's like Americans being like, I'm going to take a 24-hour road trip to go see this event and sleep with 5 other people in a hotel. Fucking nailed it.
How about, so I've been actually, this is something I've been thinking about for a little bit, but how about, what's the fact that we don't have stadium shows anymore? Not for StarCraft, right? It's all convention center shows. It's all part of something else. And that means that it takes much more of a crowd to sound big. You put, I don't know how many, again, I'm going to go back to Red Bull Battlegrounds because that's the last, well, I've been to 2 events, but that was a theater event. And so it takes far less people to make that place sound loud and rowdy than it does, when you are some number of fans in the Atlanta Convention Center that is absolutely massive. Like, I don't care how well you mic up the crowds, there's just, it's all gonna, the sound is gonna go up into space and you're not gonna catch it. And then the crowd doesn't build on itself because they don't sound loud to themselves, and you don't hit those crescendos. You don't hit that kind of that standardization of hype. To make a technical term where none exists, I don't know. But like, I don't know. Maybe this is just I want stadium shows, or I want theater shows or enclosed spaces back. But
I want
50% agree.
Spaces that accommodate the appropriate number of people.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah, that I would agree with. I 50% agree on the stadium thing because I do remember even like BlizzCon is actually a good example where like that was a very massive crowd for sure and everything. Like those BlizzCons would have massive crowds. And I'm talking about when we were not in the globe with a special stage and all that stuff. Like when we just had the straight up stuff outside in the convention hall. I remember those being very hype. I also remember MLG crowds back in the day. Like that was also literally just the convention crowd set up and everything. And those would have like an electrifying energy and stuff around them as well. So I think it is still very doable. So like I 50% agree in the sense that I think you're probably right. There are literal physical acoustic things I think happening with that. But I still think it's not that limiting of a factor. And I also think I understand there is a significant cost increase in saying like we're gonna get a venue for just this thing.
That's fair.
It's like as opposed to we're running this thing and we're gonna have a bunch of small things inside of it that all help pay the cost of this big thing.
Yeah, that's fair. Sad but fair.
Yeah, I feel you though.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't been a part of the crowd for a while. Like occasionally I'll sit down and I'll enjoy being in the crowd, but I haven't really been only in the crowd. But we made real attempts to try and get hype going. There are people who actually made the attempts to do so, right? So the Polish people have
Net Wars.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the French had their own outside of gaming, just huge fans that were very passionate and they're just I guess loud. And then a lot of the places don't, and it felt like it became less popular in StarCraft 2 as well. I mean, we've always been looked at as the golf equivalent, but what's funny? I'm actually kind of paying attention to sports a little bit more. I've never paid attention to golf because I don't like it, but my father watches it all the time. And I've suddenly seen more commercials for it. Golf is trying to get away from its image of just being very proper. So,
you mean by being bought out by Saudi Arabia?
Well, yes, there's one part of it, but they are like their commercials are almost they're almost like hey fellow kids. Like they have gone from polite rich people with proper dressing and then Tiger Woods came in and made like the polo shirt popular. But now they're like, using Zoomer music and Zoomer graphics and shit. And when people clap in golf, they actually cheer. They don't just go, yes, quiet. So it's funny now because I do think that we still are compared to golf often when it comes to our fans. But they've even noticed that maybe that's not the best way forward. And it seems like they're changing. I don't know. Maybe someone who's more into golf can correct me.
I was going to ask how much of that is like, what is it, the Phoenix Open, where the 18th hole is like the biggest party, and everyone's just the whole thing is that they're loud as hell. I don't know. I don't follow golf. My parents do, but I'm not.
That's
not
the problem.
On that.
They need more Zoomers in it.
You know what? We need? We just need to like create incentives for people to like enjoy cheering at like points in the game that are not literally just the GG moment. Like if we brought back the idea of First Blood that Bay Street TV and stuff used to do all the time and everything. If literally, imagine if just like at events and stuff, people actually just got in the habit of like saying, yeah, like first unit die, First Blood. Like that was actually a cheer thing. That would actually be kind of fun. It would bring a little bit of energy to the beginning of the game. So it's not literally just the end of the game. Oh, the game is over. Cool. Let's go. And we'll have like a little bit of energy, but all that energy dies because it's going to take another 3 minutes before we get into the game. Like imagine if we had energy at the beginning of the game. Even just little things like that would be really cool.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually thought of it. I think we've discussed this before. It sounds vaguely familiar, but it would be cool. There's just not a lot of moments where like, and then as casters, we try and make those moments. What if we really hyped up the potential scout a lot more? Instead of being like, is he going to scout it? 3 goes in. And okay, he saws what console.
Yeah, but like
But then you do it, and then you're suddenly just like, oh, it's so important. He's really got to find this. Okay, the Reaper's in. It's dodging. It's weaving. Oh my God, he barely catches the Twilight Council. This is huge. People would then just kind of accuse us of always being too hype.
And we would be. Like, I think, quite honestly.
I don't think it's even about being like overly hyped though, because I agree on the commentator side of things. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, Beowulf.
No, you're good. You're good.
Like what I'm actually more thinking is just like crowd engagement. It's not about like, oh, we're so hyped for this moment. It's not actually that. Like, I think fighting games has a really good example of it, where if you're in Smash Bros. Or like you're in, let's say there's a repeated combo like a fighting game or something, right? It's a very common thing that people will just basically like every single time someone gets juggled or something, if they're just being juggled like 8 times in a row, like a chain grab or something in Smash Bros. People will just go, A. Every single time the throw happens, they'll go, A. It's like, it's a little thing. It's not that actually the chain grab is that exciting. It's not that everyone's saying, look at how amazing the fact that this person is grabbing them, throwing them, and then while they're still stunned, grabbing them again and throwing them again. Look at how amazingly hype it is that we're repeating the exact same action 12 times in a row. That's not the sentiment behind it. The sentiment behind it is this is something that we're all like watching. It's like a funny, engaging thing. And we're engaging with it as a group together, which kind of like creates a little, it's kind of like just a little bit of an inside joke, an inside feeling everyone has together that kind of brings a bit of more community together.
It's like the Fusion Core dance. I feel like when a Fusion Core went down, we
don't have any memes. Yeah,
there's no memes, there's no excitement. Maybe when it first started coming back with the Battlecruiser meta, but yeah, no, that's a very good point about the fighting games. We do need more memes. I mean, literally, for the longest time, StarCraft did have a very explosive start because we would go 3, 2, 1, Gumiho fighting, and then no one does that anymore. So we're missing a lot.
So what I'm hearing here is that the big issue with StarCraft esports today is because Reddit banned StarCraft memes, or StarCraft Reddit banned memes like, what was it, 7 years ago? And
we found it. I mean, they
reintroduced
them,
they reintroduced it, but it was too late. ZombieGrub, it was too late. No saving it.
That's the moment. Honestly, though, their banning memes was stupid.
Yeah, it really was. But I think you're right though. Like, if there was, we don't have discrete objectives. I think in general. So the things you can get excited about are A, cool micro, B, the game ending. Maybe there's not a lot of like discrete things you can target to get excited about, really. Like,
well, I honestly think that the lack of co-commentary for outside premiere events is a big issue for that. Like, not to give myself too much credit as part of being Base Trade TV, but when we were pretty integral to the scene for a while, and we were very popular, and we no doubt helped make those jokes. I mean, First Blood was literally something that Rifkin did for a long time, and then I just got tired of tracking it, honestly. So it stopped. But then we'd have other stupid jokes, like me getting drunk and saying Marauders shoot up. So every time we had a couple of Marauders unable to shoot Corruptors, people would make a joke about it. But there's not a whole lot of a centralized chemistry building. Like, this is the weirdest phrase.
That's a big thing. No, you're right.
And now like Tastosis isn't even there, they were already being hit by just kind of the decreased viewership of GSL in general. And then I guess just, they could only carry it so much, I suppose. And now they're not even together. So that we're also potentially their memes and their jokes. So I think that's actually a big thing missing from our scene too, is that most of us solo cast, or we're suit and tie. So.
Yeah. And like Steadfast and I are the closest we get to a caster duo, and we're tier 1.5. We're not like, realistically, we are not driving the discourse as much, and even then we're on the broadcast and that's it. Like, I'm not streaming with Steadfast, he's not streaming with me. Like you all had a great thing. You, Pig, and what was it, Maynard, I think, and maybe feardragon as well had a great thing
too, the queue.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's a shame because doing things like that is objectively not good for us as streamers.
Yeah, that's why we stopped, because Maynard wasn't getting good viewership. So, and he didn't like StarCraft.
Fair.
It was too full.
Bring him back for Stormgate. Bring the queue back. Anyway, point being, objectively, anything that takes away from chat engagement is bad for your stream.
Right.
But that's also the thing that's probably the best for the community. Asking someone to do that, though, I don't know.
It's very difficult to make that scenario happen again on limited. How to say it? Like limited limited lifespan. There we go. On a limited lifespan, to ask someone to do that, right? When it's new and it's engaging and everyone's getting into it, there's so many more mixing and matching that happens. So I'm sure when Stormgate comes out, there will at least be a little bit of that. People actually attempting to make a bit of a thing go on with shows and content and co-stream.
Maybe like a Discord or something we could set up, and like whenever we're streaming, we could just be like, hey, like like a cool kids club basically. And just whenever you're in the club, you could just say it, like in the Discord, I'm in the club. People are just joining your stream.
Like an old boys club?
Yeah, exactly. Content creator club.
It's a joke because we have one. No one uses it.
Yeah.
You do? Wow.
It's the old boys club. Do you think you're going to be in that, Beomulf? Get the hell out of here.
Hey. I turned 27 3 days ago, and that makes me an old boy. At least according to my brother. I'm an old boy now. It's fine.
You're not an old boy in StarCraft, man. To be an old boy in StarCraft, you have to minimum be 30. Minimum.
That's fair.
Because our actual old boys are like 40.
It was so bad actually. I was down at DreamHack Dallas. I was doing an Omega Strikers tournament, which actually I got into because a bunch of like European pros got into it a little bit. But anyway, I felt so old. Like everyone else was, I think, max of there was some guy who was like 25. But it's funny how when I say everyone, I'm talking about like the talent. It's funny how like different in ages the what's the word? Someone's saying I'm younger than their keyboard. That's terrifying. But like how different the average talent ages of different esports are.
Yeah.
Are we old?
I get depressed sometimes looking at the League of Legends commentators. I'm just like, wow.
Freaking Valorant commentators.
Yeah, there we go.
3 18-year-olds going around the world being good casters and shit.
But here's why, ZG.
It's a very young game. League of Legends has been around almost as long as StarCraft, and all their commentators are so freaking young. That's the one that gets
all
me.
of them.
But ZG, here's the thing. You know why you hire the 18-year-old? Because they're young and they can be abused in contracts.
Unfortunately, they also fortunately, depending on your point of view, unfortunately for Riot, they also hire experienced casters who take them aside and tell them don't get screwed over and shit. So
I hope that's what happens. I assume that is.
I as far as I can tell, they're actually pretty good with each other.
That's good.
They protected their most consistent youngest member. But anyways, it's it's a young man's
confirmed.
game.
Confirmed that the Twitch chatter is in fact has his keyboard that is older than I am.
I was realizing my keyboard is almost as. I think I had a Razer keyboard because I was a fan of Slayers and they were sponsored by Razers, but it's almost as old as StarCraft 2. So 10 years old. It's a good keyboard, man. Keyboard. All right. I think we've exhausted all of our conversations. We've certainly gone on at least an hour more than I thought we would. So we're gonna end it here. Big thank you to my co-hosts. Make sure to check out Beomulf's stream and YouTube and Twitter. feardragon does stuff.
I literally don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know what he does anymore. But make sure to thank him. And then Steadfast, who was here, sure to follow him on Twitch and whatnot. And thank you all for the bits subs, tier 3 sub shout out, who were able to have it. And that'll do it. So I will see you guys on this stream tomorrow for some classic Final Fantasy 3. But otherwise, oh my god, the caster feedback thread was bumped on Team Liquid.
What?
No.
Someone's saying something. Oh no.
Gotta see what it was about. Wait.
It's about state.
Oh, it's positive.
Also, Pig is awesome. Also, Wardy's great. Oh, I don't like that.
I don't like that it's positive.
Like we've been doomer for the last 2 hours. Let me feed into it, please. Thank you.
I take offense that I wasn't mentioned.
It's positive, but not positive to me.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, clearly you had the best 2 minutes of casting at Katowice. So, like, come on.
Definitely, that's gonna live off that one for a while. Anyways, well, that's not worth talking about then. And then I guess we're gonna try and fit in something after the PC game show. So maybe something on Sunday, guys. I will let you know of my Discord. So thanks again, and have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Bye.
Bye.